out there. Happy Father's Day. I hope somebody treated you nice. And if they didn't, well, I will. I will say Happy Father's Day to you. As for myself, my wife treated me very well. She went out and got me breakfast, including one of my favorite things in the entire universe, which is Vietnamese coffee. Oh my goodness. It is so good. We have a little Vietnamese ran store in town, and it was a mess though this morning because, it's so popular. Everybody wants to go there. I wonder if my brother's still in the hospital. I should probably find my phone and call him at some point. I have stopped streaming on Twitch this time, and now I am streaming on X, YouTube, and Rumble. So for any of you guys who are on Rumble, I'm over there as DN James. Most of you have already subscribed to me because most of the people that hang out on this channel have been hanging with me for freaking years at this point. I mean, it's crazy. It's like the last time YouTube went through and got rid of bots, I lost 1,000 subscribers. I went from almost 5,000 to just like mid 3,000s, which honestly, I don't mind. I don't care. I mean, I'd rather be free of the bots than, because subscriber numbers are awesome and all. And if I ever decide to monetize my page, then I might start worrying about subscriber numbers a little bit more. But right now, since all I'm doing is just logging on and yelling at clouds and shit, subscriber numbers aren't that big of a deal. Oh, we got the bear. Hello, the bear.
Hey,
A bear. Happy. Well, I don't know if you have kids or not, but hey, happy Father's Day anyway.
No, none that I know of. There was one little tiny scare in college, but that was about it.
Well,
there's a very strong opinion amongst the women of my family, from what they know of me, that I fire blanks, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's very possible.
Well, I mean, if you were kicked a lot in the groin or something growing up, maybe that's something.
4 older sisters, man. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think? You growing up with 4 older sisters. What do you think? Like, trust me. It's the one way that most guys can't beat me in a fight now, is because, like, I know exactly what happens when that kick comes. I know how much time I have to rip your fucking eyes out before I'm incapacitated. So I just go into this crazy attack mode when someone does that to me. It's fucked up.
I managed to have at least 2.
Good for you, man.
And what's even better is recently we did blood tests, and it turns out they are mine.
Well, that's positive.
That is very positive, because if you see the statistics on, like,
these days,
the percentage of men raising other men's children, it is shameful, really. Hey, Windrunner, what is up? Yeah, that book I posted, Windrunner. Did I bring it in here? I did. It's the 5e Player's Guide. So basically what they did is they just took all of the player-specific information and put it in a book. And then they added all of the, like, minor clans. So there's expanded rules for the Banu Hakim, the Hakata, La Sombra, the Ministry, Ravnos.
So that's all the World of Darkness 2 stuff, right?
Right. And of course, my favorite, Old Clan Samichi. Which they actually made good, because they got rid of auspics. Like, they had dominate, animalism, and auspics. and they got rid of Auspex and gave them Protean.
Wait. It wasn't called Auspex. What the hell was the name of their damn thing? The Simichi? It was the flesh shaping, wasn't it?
Vicissitude.
Vicissitude, yeah.
Yeah, but only Sabat Zamichi got that.
Oh, see, when I used to play in the old days, there was no Camarilla Simichi.
Yeah, you have Sabat, who are all vicissitude, and then you have the old clan, which were the few that refused to join the Sabat and went into hiding or whatever. So they're not in the cam, but at the same time, they're also not besties with the Sabat either.
Yeah, isn't Father's Day next weekend?
I thought Father's Day was today, according to my wife.
No, it's next weekend, man.
Are you sure?
All right, let me double check because I was supposed to have a game June 15th. Yeah, June 15th is Father's Day.
Well, damn. My wife thought it was a day. She got me a Vietnamese coffee and everything.
Well, tell her she has to do that again next week now.
But, yeah, by giving old school Zamichi Protean, it actually makes that clan kind of a threat now. Because
I always thought they were a threat, period. But
but I mean, now the fact that they can at level 2 Protean bust out wolf claws and ag damage people.
Yeah, too much.
It's like, and then they've got the animalism, so they can always switch to wolves and bats and all that shit.
Yeah, okay, so they're just angrier, uglier gangrel. Is that it?
Well, they don't gotta be ugly if they're old clan. It's Dracula. As a matter of fact, in the lore, Vlad Tepes is an old clan Zamichi. And he hangs out a lot with a super old Russian vampire named Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga
is Nosferatu.
Yeah, I was going to say, she's got to be Nos.
Yep. And the two of them hate the Communist Party, so that was a whole thing during that era. But neither of them are members of any particular political affiliation. They're just old-ass vampires that wander around getting into trouble, you know?
Yeah.
Pissing everybody off. So, yeah. So right now, just sitting here, got a couple figures to paint. One of them, man, I had to work hard to get it, and it's in the box right now, but I am so excited. It is the Gravity Drive from Event Horizon.
Oh, nice.
It's big, too. And it's designed.
I figured it was going to be something cool if you were talking to me about a miniature. It's like, okay, well, this is going to be interesting to see what he's talking about. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, well
it's
done.
Actually designed like a clam, and you put like posts on the inside of it, and then when you glue it together, you break the rings so that it'll free spin however you want.
Oh, nice.
Who is Nass? I don't know. Squirrel Hermit. I know who he is. I know who Bear is with his officer's shirt on, unless that's Next Generation, in which case that's what is it? Security.
Yeah, it wasn't the art wasn't it couldn't do TOS. It was just going, nope, this is what you get every time. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll live with it. So in my head canon, they never changed from gold for command.
Yeah, I never really. I think they just did it to do it, and I hate when like people who have an IP, you got Leth showing up. It's like, don't reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because Roddenberry was sick of all the red shirt jokes. That was the problem. The red shirt jokes had become so prolific by the time Next Gen was in development. He was sick of them. He was tired. Like, Roddenberry didn't have a big sense of humor. Let's just put it that way. But the Star Trek Continues comic books, the ones that are based on the J.J. Abrams films, from IDW, are actually really good.
Are they?
And they do a lot of the old classic Star Trek episodes, but with twists, with the new Chris Pine characters and all that. But there's this one character, you know, that big guy he gets into the fist fight at the pub with in 2009 before he joined Starfleet, and then the guy winds up on the security team of the Enterprise, this big bald goateed looking guy. He has an issue where he sadly, spoiler, gets killed. But it's the letter he writes home to his parents is the whole point of the issue. And he explains how, how they make fun of red shirts and they call us red shirts and this and that. You know what? Red shirts die. It's what we do because we stand in the way of danger so that the gold shirts and the blue shirts can fix the problems. And it's just like, that was like, see, that's the attitude you need to have, Red shirts understand who they are, they know what they're doing, and they understand the sacrifice they're making is for the betterment of all of, the Federation, basically. That's right. Cool. That's Star Trek,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I hate when they change shit like that.
It was Command, then the Science, and then the
Medical were blue, and operations and security were
red. They had it divided into three things: Command, something, and whatever, and that was the gold, blue, and red.
It was supposed to be...
red is basically like technical, because you could also be an engineer.
You have security, you have starship operations, you have engineering. That's the red division, right? They're operations. They run the ship.
Windrunner says, no, I meant Baba Yaga was Nos. That's what I said. Baba Yaga is a very ancient Nosferatu. And she basically contains herself within the borders of Russia and gets herself involved in all kinds of politics and shit like that. If you follow some of the old school lore, Baba Yaga and Vlad Tepes were directly responsible for promoting the fall of the Soviet Union, because they both hated it, which the Soviet Union was a bourgeois freaking bunch of bullshit, because a bunch of basically young idiotic bourgeois thought they could create a utopia.
Fair.
And then it got away from them, because it's going to get away from you
because you're bourgeois.
Because you're bourgeois and you didn't think it out, and freaking Stalin is not affected by your bullshit. And then other vampires in the East got involved and shit went bad. RPG Dad, what is up? Baby, Father's Day's next Sunday. Yeah. That I agreed. I mean, you told me, I believed you. She's like, I had a week. Well, shit. Because she asked me, what I wanted. I could have anything I wanted, and I said, I want a Vietnamese coffee.
So look, here's a piece of trivia for Star Trek that's really fun. Kirk's gold, or the gold uniform that they all wore, was actually green. If you look at the production models, because they wanted to show off NBC's RBG, right? Red, blue, green. Hence red costume, blue costume, green costume. But for some reason, the way they lit it and the tone of green they used came up as a goldish mustard color on screen.
Yeah.
So they just said, fuck it, and color corrected it to be more gold. And by the second season, they started making the uniforms. They remade the uniforms in that color. Isn't that neat? That's fucking neat. I think that's interesting when technology, sort of drives creativity. I think that's a neat thing.
When something changes in an unforeseen way.
Well, yeah, and we don't see that anymore because now they can just use CGI to get whatever the fuck they want. So the mother of invention is gone,
I actually have a real replica of the Kirk shirt, but it's not the one from the TV show. It's from the movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's the gold one, but instead of being just plain gold, it literally has little...
Don't forget you got the other half.
Oh, that's from 2009. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the little Starfleet looking almost...
Yeah, the arrowhead is a pattern. Yeah, that's from the 2009 movie.
And then it's really got cool. The gold rings on the sleeve.
Yeah. That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, it cost me a pretty penny because, I mean, I didn't buy some cheap knockoff. I actually went to the people who make the props and bought an actual prop.
Nice.
Yeah. And well, I've got a picture of it. It looks much better on me now that I'm not, 300 pounds, but
no, for sure.
But
When I do my Star Trek, I always make medical have its own color, which is green, because I always thought to myself, imagine you're a red shirt or a gold shirt and you're on an away mission and the rock exploded, the plant shot poisonous spores at you, whatever the case may be. You're lying on the ground, bleeding out, dying, and you see a blue shirt and you're like, help me, help me. And the guy shows up and goes, no, dude, I'm a botanist.
yeah, I'm a geologist, man.
Are you a plant-based life form? Because if you are, I can help you. But otherwise, you're shit out of luck, brother.
Yeah. He's like, I was just here to check out the flora.
So
Like,
what kind of plant did this to you? Because that's really interesting to me. I'm dying, asshole.
yeah.
Live long and get fucked.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know anything about Gene Roddenberry's personal, like opinions about anything.
Yeah, well,
Probably good because, as a Star Trek fan, which somebody asked me, when did I fall out of love with Star Trek?
We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, and I was like, well, it's like your first love, and I'll always love her, but we've both moved on.
Well, based on that conversation, I was feeling really weird about it, and I was thinking about Star Trek all night. And then this morning, I saw the trailer for the season 3 of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and I had mixed emotions about it. So I made my channel Bear Trek, and I'm going to start doing Star Trek.
Bear Trek.
Bear Trek.
Go to the distant stars in the universe.
For honey.
Starship.
And look for honey. We hear that there's honey in that nebula. Well, then we're going to investigate that nebula, gentlemen.
So basically like America, but honey instead of oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we hear there's oil over here, so we thought we'd come and investigate.
Yeah, exactly.
So RPG
Hey,
read out of
Moon,
bed.
Moon,
Go back to
was
bed.
it Titan has oil on it? Looks like Titan needs freedom.
Apparently, yeah, it does.
Which
Now, good
really
movie.
messes up the dinosaur made oil thing, huh? Like,
Unless
We
there
already
was
know it was a lie.
life on Titan.
unless there was life on Titan, which would be interesting, or they're lying and animals don't make oil, but organic material.
Yeah, we actually already know that was a lie, that it was dinosaurs. We know it was other, like, organic material.
Yeah, but they still tell the lie.
Yeah, they will, but it's known to be a
I
lie.
think oil is made out of like prehistoric algae and stuff. And could there be single-celled organisms or even multi-celled organisms on some of the moons of Jupiter? Could be. That would be weird. But
Well,
then again,
Actually, I mean, there has been, like, I don't know what bears someone, but
Bear's being a robot.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
If you've never seen the Europa Report, that is definitely a movie worth checking out.
I don't know much about that movie, but there has been, like, things like what looks like to be dead, like bacteria.
How's my audio now?
You
That
sound
sounds a lot
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Europa is the best chance for life outside of Earth in the solar system beneath the ice. They're pretty sure there must be some sort of life on Europa in the oceans, because Europa is just one giant ocean underneath the ice under the ice layer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
It's funny because that is exactly what we were talking about
Yeah.
when you come back.
The Europa Report, you're talking about that movie. I heard that.
And how that's such a really good movie, actually.
It is.
I think a lot of people slept on that movie because
I think it was like, what planet was it where they found what looked like to be like fossilized single-celled organisms?
Mars.
well, I mean, in the movie Life Form, they found Calvin. Didn't end up well. Because Calvin grew into a big slime thing and ate everybody. So not good times.
Yay.
But and then of course there was the one movie where they're on Mars and like somebody opened an ancient tomb
Oh,
And the ghosts
Ghost
of
of
the
Mars.
original Martians came out and started possessing people.
Then
Ghost
there
of
was
Mars. John
also
Carpenter.
the weird experiments that we did by sending jellyfish into the space.
And
Turns-
yeah, in
turns
Ghost
out-
of Mars, it's like they started turning humans into reavers.
Yeah, turns out, James, that apparently
Plasti diesel.
jellyfish actually reproduce well in space.
Why wouldn't they?
It's
They
just
live
weird.
in the ocean, so completely buoyant.
Yep.
So you throw them in space, and it's like they don't notice. It's not like they got brain or anything.
Well, the thing is that they did have a little bit of issue with some of the generations born in space coming back to Earth. Apparently, they did not understand gravity.
Yeah, I have an idea that jellyfish probably don't understand anything because I'm pretty sure they don't even have a nervous system.
Yeah, well, you know, they acted a little weird when they came back because
That's kind of a mystery of
of
the box jellyfish in Australia, which is a predator. And they're like, how can this thing be a predator? It has eyeballs, but no brain. And yet it hunts. It's like we have no idea what the F that thing's up to. You know, it's just living its best life over there in Australia, killing everything. And we just don't know how, you know, that it could do it.
that's
but it
Australia
does.
for you. Everything once you're dead in Australia.
Yeah. Dead or infected with an STD. Because them koala bears will give you chlamydia. Freaking chlamydia infested drop bears. But yeah, Europa, going back to that bear, yeah, according to that show, and I don't know if it was right, but it probably is. There's like this thick layer of ice, and then like under the ice, it's actual water for miles deep. Who knows? You know, I mean, the planet might have a core. Who knows? Whatever. And if you've got that much fresh water in one location, then they estimate stuff could be going down. You know.
Yeah.
Now
So
in the movie, she got attacked by that giant phosphorescent Cthulhu monster. It wasn't really a Cthulhu monster, but it did have a lot of tentacles.
Windrunner asks a good question. Have you all seen that guy who created Plasti Diesel? Well, if you haven't, see him now because he's gonna have an unfortunate car accident, house fire, or something real soon.
Yeah, I have not seen that Windrunner at all, and
Really?
I don't even know what Plasti Diesel even
It's
is.
this guy out of the States. I think he's from New Jersey or something. He's a young black guy, and he's figured out a way to convert plastic into a clean burning diesel fuel. So he's basically trying to find a way to recycle, you know, for the world and save the world by using, hey, we can still have, you know, combustion engines, but we can use this cleaner resource and take care of our plastic problem at the same time. Well, I'm going to miss him. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I'm not like a scientist or anything, but I don't think that should be such a jump. I mean,
It's
since plastic's made out of petrochem,
Exactly.
so making it back into petrochem shouldn't really be. I mean, you know, if the Germans in 1940 something were converting freaking coal into oil, I mean, we should be able to do some shit now. Or maybe just say, hey, we never got any smarter than that. I don't know. But yeah, I played a game where I was playing the Germans in World War II, and one of the ways that I actually fought to an armistice is I invested all my points in the I forget the name of it, but the process where you take coal, which Germany has shit tons of, and turn it into diesel. Of course, you can't win the war. You cannot win. I like those though, where you try to win. But if you have the fuel and everything, you can definitely fight to an armistice, which is what I ended up doing. And at the end of the thing, I mean, the Third Reich existed in that game, but it was within the original borders of Germany.
But James,
Like I'd lost all the territory I'd taken.
couldn't the Germans win if they made the mouse or something?
No, that's stupid, and you know it. That's why you said it.
The mouse.
Yeah, that was the German super tank that was powered by 2 linked submarine engines, U-boat engines.
Well, that sounds dangerous.
What it sounds like is a gigantic waste of time and resources.
It was.
And they kind of built 3 prototypes, none of which actually worked.
Wait. A gigantic waste of time and resources, a.k.a. World War II.
Right. And I think the one that was closest to completion is currently in Russia.
Well, it was half of one and half the other prototype that they just put together.
But they were trying to literally build like a land battleship. You know, like you see in sci-fi, like a tank so big it would have like, you know.
Like the Rate.
Yeah, like the Rat. You know, like this massive, you know, thing, because they were in their brains, they were envisioning superior German technology taking on the hordes of the Soviets and just crushing them because of being bigger, which didn't work.
No,
You
no.
know. And Hans Guderian, who is the father of modern tank warfare, even told him that.
Yeah.
Because when they made the Panther tank and they gave it Hans Guderian, he was like, "What the is this? I asked for a medium tank. This thing weighs 70 tons, you know?" and they're like, "Yeah, but it's the because, you know, over engineering, certified to clean burn." Well, I hope that hey, quickly, how you doing, Mr. Beans on Toast? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Oh, do you guys see that crazy shit going on in LA?
Yeah, they had riots there.
They're straight up,
No, what
yeah,
happened?
except this time instead a redo of the Summer of Love where, you know, everybody stands around with thumbs in their butts. They've already sent in the National Guard.
Yeah.
They're all like, yeah, we're not having this shit. You know, we're not going to do another, you know, let's burn down all of the blue cities for 2 years thing. And they're already locking people up. And you know, it's weird. You know whose side is protesting when you don't see a single American flag, but you see flags from every other country. And it's like, get out of here with that. Stop some of the oil rig fires. Yeah, I don't know about that. I was fortunate in that I wasn't a Marine, which meant I was nowhere near the burning oil rigs in Iraq.
Oh, James, did you hear
The
that the
Marines had
Marines
to deal with that shit.
are getting rid of their, or I think they've already gotten rid of all their tanks?
They are, I know, but I'm just saying they're the ones that had to deal with all of the burning oil rigs and all that shit. That was their AO.
And instead,
We
they're
were
actually
much,
just
much
upgrading.
farther west. So
Yeah, the Marines are just upgrading their gear and making sure they're like infantry.
I actually like some of the new ideas the Marine Corps is doing with like anti-ship missiles mounted on trucks and shit like that.
Yeah.
It means you can land them on an island, and instead of just standing around on the island, they are a threat to anything that goes anywhere near the island.
Yep.
That's cool. But, you know, other guys in my chat who are ex-Marines, they disagree. And they think the Marines should keep the tanks. And I'm like, well, you know, opinions are what they are, you know. I'm not going to disagree. Like Shark thinks they should keep the tanks. Shark's been a bunch of times in the Marine Corps. So I'm not going to disagree with him. If he thinks they should keep the tanks, he probably knows way better about it than I do. But, you know, I do like some of the new stuff they're talking about, though.
They're getting a lot of cool new stuff, it seems. Like, you know, they're getting really kitted out with all the night vision and all that stuff, new
The
stuff.
sheriff just got arrested for running a gambling ring. Well, good for him. Good for him. Apparently, last night for us, Russia fired 40 Orechniks or whatever they're called into Ukraine. Exactly 0 were shot down by Patriots because those things fly at Mach 10 and fucked up Ukraine really bad. And the Russians are saying it is in response to what the Ukrainians did. Now, Trump asked Vladimir Putin not to retaliate, and Putin told Trump, no, I have to at this point. So it's like, hey, dear Ukrainians, try not to drag us into World War III with your bullshit.
Oh no, they will. They will completely drag us home to World War III. They're fucking gunning for it. They're itching for it.
It's like, I don't want it. I don't think it's a great idea, but whatever. What do I know? But yeah, so the Russians made their point, which is we can hit any point of your country at any time with a missile you cannot shoot down. And we'll see if they keep playing this freaking tit for tat bullshit. Trump told the EU, hey, you know how it is when you got like 2 kids in the playground and they're just fighting and because they really hate each other and shit. He's like, maybe sometimes it's best just let them fight for a little bit instead of trying to break them up because, that's just what they want to do. And people are taking that in a lot of different ways.
Well, as we've said before, if Trump said breathing was a really good idea, there'd be a lot of blue-faced fucking lefties falling over in the street.
Right. Holding their breath and shit.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he's basically saying, hey, to quote what's his name in Godzilla, let them fight.
Let them fight.
Gajira.
Yeah, Gajira is like, stop fighting with the dinosaur. Just let them scrap it out. They got issues. But as usual, I think the whole thing is stupid as shit, but nobody listens to me, so. But anyway, yeah, Windrunner, I picked up a couple of new 5e books just because. So, in addition to the player's book, I picked up the Gehenna War source book, which goes into detail about where all the elders could be. It actually gives you different options. You get to choose, like, what's going on. Like, pretty much you can say, well, they're just hiding, or you can say Kane's stalking the world, or you can say whatever you want to say. They give you different, like, reasons for why most of the Inkanyu and elder whatevers are
I thought they were
in hiding
or
or
something
whatever.
like that.
Whereas the reality is they just wanted people to play lower generation characters. And having played original Vampire for years and years, and now that I understand and play 5e, I agree with them. It is better if everyone is playing 12th level or 12th gen, 10th gen. You don't need a bunch of 8th gen characters running around.
No, 8th gen should be your primogen. They should be the elders of the city,
Right.
of your domain. That's your prince should be 8th gen, or a nice 6th gen puppet that the rest of the 8th gens are propping up, for their own benefit.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of what changed me on, because I bought 5th gen or 5e Vampire, and I was really excited about it. And then we played it, and I was not excited. I was like, this kind of sucks, right? And then I watched Black Lodge Games, and the one guy, not the bald ginger, but the other one, was explaining Vampire to me. And just the way he explained it, it made everything about 5e make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, like the 5e way they track hunger and stuff is way more like impactful than the way hunger is tracked in other editions of Vampire. because it actually is something you have to worry about all the time. Every time you do anything, that's part of the equation. You know what I mean? So if my character wants to bust out like fleetness and whatever, I have to worry, am I getting ready to send myself into a hunger frenzy over all this shit? You know what I mean? And whereas in original Vampire, not to knock on it, I mean, I love it, but all you do is mark a couple dots off your blood pool and call it done,
Yep.
So it's like
There's no risk of you going in a blood
there's
frenzy
no
unless you
risk.
just
You can do whatever you want. There's absolutely zero risk. But in 5e, no matter what you do,
you could just go into blood frenzy.
yeah, if you're using powers and shit, unless, I mean, some powers don't even burn blood anymore, so they're really safe. I think like most of the Auspex powers, you don't have to worry about making
Which is
rouse
fair.
check.
I don't think that Auspex should probably get you to a point where you blood frenzy as much.
I try and
don't
really hard over there. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I'm now killing everything in sight.
Think
Really?
Obfuscate does either. I think the ones that you definitely have to roll, as they call them, rouse checks, to make sure you don't go nuts, are the usual suspects. So celerity, potence.
Well, I think any of the combat stuff,
Rhodian
stuff, like we'd probably want to do it.
The ones where you actually physically do superhuman shit, you're gonna pay for. But a lot of the passive disciplines, you don't have to pay anything for.
You don't want your majesty to cause you to frenzy.
Yeah, a presence usually doesn't. It depends.
Like, don't worry, I'll got this. I'm gonna talk to him.
Why are you eating his face? I ran out of blood.
I ran out of blood.
Wow, thanks, Prince.
And of course, the hungrier you get, the more likely. It's kind of like a death spiral. It's like as you get hungry, the chance of getting hungrier goes up. So you just keep going down that path. And the only way to ever be completely sated is to kill the victim you're feeding from.
But being in a blood frenzy while you're using the stealth ability would be kind of funny, because then you just basically become the predator and you just like start
Yeah, obfuscate, like simple obfuscate, I don't think requires a rouse check.
Yeah.
It's usually shit you might think about using in combat or whatever. I mean, if you're constantly changing your shape from like a human to a fucking wolf or something, yes, you're going to get hungry. But if you're just checking out people's auras and stuff like that, you pretty much don't have to worry about it. And I think that just, like there is a celerity power that does not require any blood use. And it's like level 1 celerity, and the only thing it does is it makes it where you always go first, unless the person doing an action has a higher level of celerity than you. And that ends up being an incredibly useful power if you're dealing with humans, because, if you're standing somewhere and a human runs up and pulls out a shotgun and he's going to shoot you, you can just be like, nah, I'm going first, and then you can try to do something about it. But it's a free action, though. I finally found what I was looking. I was looking for this guy. I need to paint his face. But yeah, that's the Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher mounted on the
Humvee.
The roof of my Humvee. And then, of course, I recently added the jerry can and the bull bumper. So good old Humvee.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't like about the remake of Command and Conquer. They renamed the Humvee.
What'd they name it?
I forgot. I think it was just like Light Scout.
Well, I mean, The hard covered Humvee, which that is, they do use them in the Scout
Oh, fair. I just like the
company
Humvee name.
a lot. They use them and they use M3 Bradleys. And a lot of times they might even mount like a tow launcher on top of that Humvee. Because, I mean, if you're creeping through the brush and shit in a little Humvee and you can set up in an area where you're kind of hulled down, looking out across an area, man, with that tow launcher, I mean, you can really, really make armor regret existing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Ranger battalions use Humvees a lot. But that's just because they can drop them out of airplanes. So, but, yep. Got my battleships over there done. Right now, I have a bunch of figures I just Zenithal highlighted that are getting ready to get some Vallejo Express paint on them. I've got this alien that I need to put some Gilliman flesh. And what's awesome is the Gilliman flesh is right in front of me. So I'm just going to do that. And then if I pick out the bones and tentacles and maybe throw some like gory blood red into some parts, he'll be done. We'll see if I ever get to use these guys. I might. Depends. If all the D&D characters get killed in the dungeon, then, you know,
New game.
you might move on to something else. Then eventually, when Windrunner gets done doing what he's doing, we'll go back to Vampire for a while. And by the way, yeah, the guy in chat, I don't even know if he's still in chat, Windrunner, that is the storyteller of our Vampire Chronicle that's been going on for, I don't know, years now.
Sounds like it's been pretty interesting.
Yeah. The guy, I mean, if I had to complain about him, it's sometimes he goes too deep into description. It's like he's the H.P. Lovecraft of vampire storytellers. And only H.P. Lovecraft fans are going to get that reference. So I will explain it. H.P. Lovecraft had this habit of putting like 38 descriptive verbs in one sentence about a tree or something. Like, it was just the way the dude wrote. And I love his writing. There's no sup. I'm just talking bad about you behind your back. Or now, I guess, in front of your back. And not really bad. I was saying you are a great storyteller. If I had any complaint at all, it is that sometimes you go overboard with descriptions when, you know, but that could be a me issue too, because he's describing the scene and I've already decided what I want to do and I want to just do it. But then I have to sit there. Plus, I'm a terrible player. I am the worst player to have at your table too.
I accept that challenge.
You know, because I'm always trying to get shit going, and sometimes I interrupt the storyteller because I'm like, nah, fuck that. I want to do this. And, you know, and I'm trying to learn to be better. Of course, Windrunner is in my OSE game, and he's pulling that same shit on me.
Hey, I'll just derail your game.
And I told him, I was like, hey, I made a promise to myself that the next time you run Vampire, I was going to be good. You keep fucking around, and I'm taking that promise back.
Is it really bad that I turn a murder mystery into the Mafia or the Godfather?
No, that's good, actually. Hey, Shadow, what is up, my long-haired hippie friend?
Hey, Shadow. Hey, Leth, I just won an auction, by the way, yesterday for some really cool RuneQuest 3 stuff and some RuneQuest 2 stuff.
Ooh,
Oh,
nice.
You're going to church, Shadow? Congratulations, man. I didn't even think you went to church.
No.
So
I'm
here's
Garth.
some things I need to paint, but they'll be easy. I've already based them. They're Turks on spikes. And I have a bunch of them. And they go with this guy right here. He's going to be easy to paint too, because I just need to paint him white and then do his armor in red. Come on, focus. If you can't tell, it's Dracula from Bram Stoker's Dracula. So he's wearing like that blood red armor that almost looks like muscles.
I hated that armor.
Hungar! Are you still in the hospital, Hungar, chasing nurses around, or they finally let you out? Yeah, so I found the STL for that particular vampire, and it's multi. Like in this one, he's got a chalice, but like in this one, he's got his helmet on and a sword. You know?
Yeah.
And there's another one where he's actually holding a spear with a guy, you know, impaled on it. And you know, so pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Yes, sir. Still in the hospital. Trying to wake up Shadow. Oh, RPG is trying to wake up.
Oh, sounds like I gotta go.
Yeah,
I'll see you.
Okay, fine.
Bye.
Like, he's always that way. He's always like, just you'll be bullshitting around and he'll be like, well, I gotta go back. Boop, gone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. But who knows? Maybe his breakfast is done or something. My wife from the Vietnamese place, she bought me an egg and bacon sandwich.
Oh, nice.
So yeah. Early, you know, I did the same thing though. I gave her Mother's Day present like a month before Mother's Day because somehow I got it into my mind that it was Mother's Day. So
it happens.
Shadow may be having a stroke. Shadow, do you smell toast?
Dr. Penfield, I smell toast.
I can hear my wife in the other room listening to Nuxanor, who's probably bitching about Hassan Piker.
Again.
Well, I mean, he's made like 50 videos. The how effed is Hassan Piker video franchise? Because every time Hassan Piker does something stupid, he does a video and increases the percentage he's effed by. So, and at 1,000%, that'll be when he's in jail, which is, I think, what Nux really, really wants is Hassan to go to jail for being so friendly to terrorists. But, you know, internet, it's weird. Some people forget that the internet's not real. And
what?
Yeah. And that's not me making a defense for Hassan Piker. I think he is a truly horrible human being, but at the same time, I'm not sure he deserves to go to prison. You know.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, but he has done some pretty horrible shit, you know, like glazing
Trustarians are the worst.
and talking really good about Hamas and, you know, denying the Hamas, you know, atrocities and, you know, just, you know, stuff that a decent human being probably wouldn't do. But hey, you know, good thing about life, at least in this country, is if you don't want to be a decent human being, I mean, that's your option. As a matter of fact, I forget who it was that said, stop stop not alienating whatever racists. Let them say whatever. That way you know who they are.
Yeah, no, exactly. I used to say this myself back when I said, when you brought in all these hate speech laws, what you did was you made them have to start using different code words to say the things they wanted to say, which was in the old days when someone just dropped a hard N-bomb in front of you, you go, well, I know what you are now. You know, like it was really easy. Now it's like, well, I don't know if this person, what they're talking about. You know, it's so stupid now.
Yeah, Chappelle did a whole comedy skit about it, where he's talking about how he liked New York because when he went up there, the people were racist right to your face. So he was like, okay. I mean, you know, he's like, you knew what was up, right? Right off the bat. When the Chinese guys started calling you a bunch of shit, you knew, you know, but he said down in the South, they keep that shit quiet and aged to perfection. You know, and it's like, yeah, he's not wrong, you know, but then again, Dave Chappelle has proven that you can hit a point in your life to where you're just absolutely uncancelable.
Yep.
Just picked up some OSE books this week, thinking of running. Oh, Keep on the Borderlands using OSE rules is absolutely amazing. Coochie and what's his name? The Demi Lich and also the Mage. Mage's Musing on his channel, he did that. And then he did like after action reports and stuff like that. Because OSE is so close to the BECME, or not BECME, but BX. Even if you use the advanced version, which I use, it's still, when you get to the rules, basic and advanced. You know, the Mauvais Cook.
Yeah.
They just allow you to play a dwarf cleric instead of just dwarf. So, yeah, great game. Great game.
Of that, I agree.
There are so many great games, though. You know, it's like, I'll tell you what, we really are spoiled for choice in this day and age.
Boy, are we ever.
So many great games that you could be playing, and it's like, ugh, you know, like I love Dragonbane. You know what I mean? I love Dragonbane. And of course, Call of Cthulhu and Traveler, obviously. I mean, if I were to make a list of the 5 games I want to play, it'd probably be some kind of BX clone. I'll just say that because it's easier. And then Call of Cthulhu, Traveler 2300. So that leaves me 2 more that if I really... Twilight 2000, Free League. And let me look in here for some inspiration. What game in here would I love to play? Oh, Aliens, probably. Yeah, the Aliens game. Or maybe the 2.20 classic Star Trek.
Nope, that's garbage.
I have the one that came in the tricorder.
Yeah, I have that little book as well. I
It's
just
the
don't
little
like
book.
2D20. It just does not do Star Trek well, sadly.
Well, here's the problem. 2.20 Conan was awesome. But then every other version of 2.20, they just kept making it more and more abstract.
Yeah.
So then it got to where you're like, you know, you've got like 4 stats and 4 other things, and that's
it.
all you get.
Is
Yeah.
2.20 Conan the one that has the I forget what they call it, but like that weird meta currency?
Yes.
Yeah, I hate that.
Doom.
I despise
My
that.
one of my players, when we were thinking about playing the game, he read the rule book. He handed it back. He goes, "I'm not playing." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "This game does the one thing I can't stand." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "There's a mechanic in there where they can take favor from you as the GM. Yeah, but that gives you stuff to use against us, this Doom thing. I said, yeah. He goes, so you got me, the player who really, really wants to make sure I succeed by my own 2 feet. I don't always be relying on these bennies to do everything. So yeah. Because then we got the other player who refuses to let any roll ever fail, constantly giving you shit that you're going to use against me. That's not right. And I'm like, you know what? That is absolutely a fair assessment of that fucking system, which is that if the Doom was versus the player that used the stuff, you'd have an accurate system. You chose that shit. Well, now I've got points to use against you specifically. But when it punishes the entire group, that's kind of bullshit.
Well, that's
also the way it's written
players to discuss amongst themselves.
Yeah, but also the way it's written, it's like the GM can't really legitimately introduce any complication except through using these things. At least the way they spelled it out, and it's like, bite me.
That's supposed to be the counterpoint to it. Is if you want to do things that cost Doom, and if you want to do anything really major, it might cost 5+ Doom.
Yeah.
And
I don't like currency-based systems.
But for 5+ Doom, you could do shit like have like a whole different group of enemies just show up in the middle of a fight.
Or you could just do that because you're a spiteful GM bastard.
Exactly.
Like
I don't like games where I have to have currency to run my game. And if I don't have enough currency in the game, then I can't run the game the way I want to. Fuck that. I don't like powers being based on currency. I don't like abilities being based on currency. I'm a big BRP fan for a reason. None of that bullshit.
If I were to estimate why they did that, I think it's so that because you know how so many games have become so much more player facing.
Yep.
I think it's so that if you introduce enemies and you pay 5 Doom to do it, none of the players can bitch and say you're just a spiteful bad DM because they've seen you pay the currency to do the thing. And yeah, I agree. That's maybe not necessarily right, but I think that's the logic behind it. Now,
but that's playing into a weakness in playing of modern.
We played the game a couple of times, and Doom was never used, Doc, because none of the players ever wanted to do anything that would give me Doom.
Yeah. Also, it's weirdly takes you out of the game when you're just like spending meta currencies. It's just this weird, like I'm introducing this like
I gotta go,
game
boy.
thing now.
I gotta head out and run some errands. My buddy's coming to pick me up. So it was a pleasure talking to you this fine Sunday morning. Be well. We'll see you all again.
I'll see you later.
See you later,
and have fun. I agree with you, Doc. That was one of the let them fight. That was one of the things that I did not like when everybody was trying to sell me on Savage Worlds. Was like all the bennies and stuff, because I'm like, I really just do not like that. It's like, it's a thing to think about. And you're like, but do you really need to think about it? Is it really that important? I mean, does it have to be a thing? But all of the old dudes at the comic shop, like the guys my age and older, the Graybeard Gaming Club, as they called it, at some point, they all just switched to Savage Worlds. And that's just all they were playing, Savage Worlds. And I just never could get into it.
I don't think I have ever played Savage Worlds.
Well, it's basically the combat system from old school Deadlands, but stripped down a lot and then made really generic so that you can use it with any setting, including Deadlands. Except the people who created Deadlands and Savage Worlds, I don't know if you call it bending the knee or what you call it, but when they redid the latest edition of Deadlands, they got rid of the Confederacy entirely. So like during the Civil War, when the zombies started coming out of the ground in the middle, the way original Deadlands reads is directly after Gettysburg, the South was withdrawing. The North was preparing to chase Lee down, which would ended at Appomattox, right? except all the dead left on the battlefield jumped up and started trying to eat people. So then the Union Army had to spend so much time oh, that's Doc. Okay. I saw the private message. I'm like, what's going on here? So then in the original setting, the Union Army had to spend so much time dealing with the undead that it allowed the Confederate troops to get south of the border and start fortifying shit. And then the Civil War basically turned into World War I, where it was just trenches facing each other across the Mason-Dixon, and you know what I mean? And so the Confederacy actually stood, but there was a lot of other stuff too, like California shattered into a million pieces and fell into the ocean. So the Union was pretty upset with that. You know, there were a lot of reasons the Union didn't take, you know, it was like if you were the Union side in a war game and everything just went bad. So the Confederacy survived. And then on top of that, the Confederates were a lot more willing to F around with Ghost Rock. So at one point, they actually made a push to Washington, D.C., and they had tanks, steam-powered tanks. That because Ghost Rock, which is the solidified souls of the damned, burns like coal, but it burns way, way hotter and for way, way longer, right? So all of these guys that were steam guys, you know, steam engine guys, they started building crazy shit because the Ghost Rock allowed them to make more and more. So yeah, at a point, the Confederates literally had tanks that were powered by Ghost Rocks. And, you know, so at that point, that's when the game kind of becomes steampunk.
Yeah.
And you can actually play a steampunk style engineer in the game. Like one of the things that the steampunk guys come up with is like rotary pistols and just crazy weapons, like that movie Wild Wild West, basically that, but with zombies and shit too.
Yeah. That was a fun show. I thought the movie was terrible. I remember watching the show when I was
the show was great. The movie was terrible, and I don't know who to blame because it's like the guys they put in the movie and gal, they were all like really good actors.
No, what it was that guy, the lead producer was that guy who had been Barbra Streisand's hairdresser and then dated her for years and got made a movie producer. I forget his name. And he's notorious for just like the giant spider thing was his idea. He tried to get that in one of the Superman movies. He was just always like one of these no talent producer dicks who's like constantly who thinks he's incredibly creative and wants to like insert shit into movies. I forget.
There's nothing creative about a giant mechanical spider.
Yeah, he's notorious for shit like that. He destroys every movie he touches. I forget the guy's name.
Yeah, because that movie had Kenneth Branagh?
Yeah, that's the bad guy. And you can't ask for like a better.
I mean, that guy is an amazing actor. And then on top of that, you had Will Smith at the height of his fame, you know, when he was just pulling people into the box office.
Kevin Kline's awesome.
Yeah, so
they had a dream cast.
But. And it had, what's her name? That super hot Mexican chick.
Was it Selma Hayek was in it?
I think it was. Yeah,
she kind of fell off the earth. Haven't seen anything with her in a very long time.
You know what the problem with super hot chicks is?
Yeah,
like after 2 years, they're old. You know, and it's like, well, okay. You know, you were super hot when you were 20s and 30s, but now you're 60.
Yeah. No, it was another movie that had a great cast and just fell short of what it could have been was Dragonheart.
Yeah.
It just fell.
I mean, Sean Connery is the dragon.
Yeah, Dennis Quaid. I mean, that was great cast. It just, you know, they made like 4 or 5 sequels to that. They were all like
I do because I've watched all of them. Because that's the kind of guy, and even though they sucked, I still was like, got dragons in it. I mean, shit. I'm gonna watch it. You know that.
No, one of the
And
best dragon movies I thought ever was Dragon Slayer. That's kind of
Dragon
fallen off
Slayer, I
the map.
think,
Nobody
is.
talks about anymore. That was an awesome movie.
I think Dragon Slayer is the penultimate D&D movie.
Yeah, and the dragon was awesome in it. It was better than the freaking Hobbit dragon by a mile.
Yeah.
And they did that, and that was what, like 82, 83?
It could only be killed this way, this wizard, and the guy had the big spear, and they had to feed it virgins and shit like this. I mean, it's like you could take the script from that movie and just draw up your maps and shit and write down the NPCs and shit and run it.
Yeah,
That would be
an
a
awesome
perfect fantasy game.
Yeah, that was a great movie. And that's something that's kind of like off everybody's radar. Nobody talks about that anymore. It's a shame because it was a really, really good movie from the 80s.
Well,
and it looked so phenomenal for the period it came out in.
Nobody talks about it because we're a bunch of old ass boomers. And if you're talking to anyone under the age of 40 or 5, they've never even heard of it. They're like, what? It's like, yeah, Dragon Slayer, Disney.
Did they make that?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can.
Seems harsh for a Disney movie.
Yeah, that was Disney, man. And yeah, that was back when they were making good movies. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, Disney used to make some pretty harsh ass movies. I mean, Bambi, within the first couple minutes of the movie, his mom gets ganked. And then Fox and the Hound, they're friends when they're young, but then when they grow up, the Hound's supposed to kill the fox. And like a lot of Disney movies were tragedies, really. But I don't know. I don't know what happened. They started trying to turn all of their bad guys into good guys, which is a weird flex, It's like, hey, let's find a way to make Cruella de Vil misunderstood.
Yeah, that's a weird. I mean, it's good to have like layered villains that like have a point to them, but when it just gets to they're just the misunderstood hero,
you can
really.
Stream it on Pluto. There you go. And I agree. I heard everything you said and agree 100%, Doc. Layered villains like Magneto are awesome, but don't try to make them anti-heroes that are actually just misunderstood good guys. Reign of Fire was really good. And let me tell you something about Reign of Fire, Daryl. I had no idea that was Matthew McConaughey. The first time I watched the movie, I had no idea.
Who was he in that?
He was the big bald dude that got out of the tank and was like, whatever his name was, 57th Kentucky Rifleman.
Oh, I didn't even realize that was him. I saw that a long time ago. I remember I saw that right before I went in the Army.
A shaved head, and you know how Matthew McConaughey's usually really skinny.
Yeah.
But in that movie, he was bulked up, man. He was like freaking jacked.
Did you ever see him in The Gentleman?
I don't think I did. No.
That is an awesome movie. It's a British crime movie. And he's in that. He's like the main boss guy. That's an awesome film.
But yeah, like the first couple times.
Yeah. The guy who plays Ragnar in Vikings is in it too, and he's fucking awesome in that.
Nice. But yeah, the first couple times I saw Reign of Fire, I had no idea. Yeah, the big crazy guy with the axe. Of course, my heart warmed up though when he got out, and the English guy's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, whatever his name was, 57th Kentucky Infantry, and I was like, Kentucky, bringing in, holding it down for Kentucky, the first group to kill a dragon. Which makes total sense. If anybody was going to kill a dragon, it would be those Eastern Kentucky guys.
I had one of my favorite lines. We can do this the easy way, or we could do this the other easy way.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have like this castle thing with some freaking beans on toast people living in it versus like all these M1, A1 tanks and shit. It's like, this ain't going to work out the way you think it is, But then they came together as a team, and then what's his name? I think his name started with a Z. Ended up getting ate by the dragon, but he went out like a Chad, though. He jumped right at that dragon with that axe, and then rah. And then they killed it, which, good, good deal. And it had what's his name, Christopher Bell or whatever. And he is in one of my favorite movies.
He's good. I've liked him.
Christian Bell, yeah. He's in one of my favorite movies of all time. Hungar, what do you think my favorite movie starring Christian Bell is? You can guess too if you want, Doc. It's like, what do I know about James? What Christian Bell movie would be his favorite Christian Bell movie?
I'm trying to think of Christian Bell movies. I'm blanking though.
Well, he's been in a million. He's in like 3 Batman movies. When you had what's his name as the Joker, so you actually had the good Joker, the scary Joker.
American Psycho.
Yep. American Psycho is
somebody did
favorite.
A fan edit.
Hungar's got it. Mobius has got American Psycho, and I absolutely love that movie because there's so much going on, but you're never quite 100% sure if anything is going on.
You should check out. There's a fan edit movie called American Batman, where they like splice different parts of those 2 movies, Batman Begins and American Psycho, together. So like Bruce Wayne is this like
great one, though.
Lunatic idiot, crazy person.
American Psycho is my favorite, and the one quick Lee's talking about, that's definitely number 2. It's the one where it's in the future and everyone's drugged so that no one has emotions, and he plays like
and Sean Bean does
some shit. And they all do like gun fu. They're all trained with all this, and they carry like these big freaking 50 cal pistols and shit and katanas. They're not called Inquisitors, though. I think they're called Templars or something like that. And they serve the government, and their job is anyone who doesn't take the drugs, their job is to hunt them down and take them out. Because there was a World War III, as usual, and then the government that took over, which was absolutely a totalitarian fascist government, decided the best way to make it where there would never be any more wars is to make it where humans were not emotional. Because you couldn't be mad, you couldn't be sad, you couldn't nothing. And and he played one of the enforcers until he wasn't. And he was amazing. Yeah, it was the dog that changed everything. Because they were supposed to kill the dog, because owning a dog was considered to be like bad because it showed there was emotion. And instead of exterminating the dog, he saved it. And also he started reading like poetry. He found like a book amongst some rebels or something. And he started reading like Paradise Lost or some shit like that. And it started, basically he started thinking. Oh, Bell was good as John Christian Bell is an amazing actor. It's hard to find, like Doc says, he can't really place movies he's in. But in my mind, I can't think of bad movies he's ever been in. Like there's a movie where he plays the meth head, and I think it's Wahlberg plays his brother who's training to be a boxer. And Christian Bell is amazing in that, like stills every scene. And of course, as Batman, he was amazing. He's just good. He is a good actor.
Oh, The Machinist is a really good movie too.
Yeah,
I remember The Machinist.
Yeah,
that was disturbing. That's an Insomniac that really freaked me out. That movie.
Insomniac, isn't that the one with Robin Williams as a serial killer or something?
Insomnia, yeah.
It's so weird when you see like somebody you love, like Mork and Work, and all of a sudden
he played great villains. He played a couple villains, Robin Williams, and he was really like he knows how to make a villain really disturbing and creepy.
Yeah. Well, again, another absolutely amazing actor, gone way before his time.
He was in an episode of one of the Law and Orders, the weird one that the guy from Full Metal Jacket was in.
Yeah.
And he played a crazy killer in that. And he gets he might get away. He's handcuffed. He dives in the river, and they never find him. So they're kind of like setting it up where he might come back.
Yeah. That's what's his name? Something Baldwin, but not in any way related to the more famous Baldwin.
No, that's you're thinking of the guy from Firefly, Adam Baldwin. This guy's something else.
D'Onofrio?
D'Onofrio, yes, D'Onofrio.
Yeah, he was in Full Metal Jacket as Gomer Pyle.
They were both in that movie, though. Yeah, Adam Baldwin played Animal Mother in that.
Yeah,
I always thought that should have been two completely different movies. I thought they should have just done the basic thing and left it at that.
Isn't he a method actor? I don't know if he's a method actor or not, but I do know in the movie where he plays the meth head and his brother's trying to do the boxing thing, he probably weighs 120 pounds. He lost so much freaking weight. You can see his ribs when his shirt's off. I mean, he looks like he's starving. He looks like he looks like a meth head up in Boston. So, I mean, of course, unlike certain actors, apparently he's never seen anyone he's filmed movies with like dead pig heads and shit like that. I mean, you know. That's what's his name, who apparently also runs a cult.
So what is he? Who runs a cult?
The guy who played the Joker in the shitty Suicide Squad stuff.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Like when they were filming that, he was sending the other actors like organs and pig heads and crazy ass shit, because when he got into the role of the Joker, he never got out of it the whole time they were filming. So he was doing crazy shit like the Joker, which of course was just alienating all of the other people who acted with him. And he's got his own island and his band. I forget the name of the band. And if you pay $1,000 to $6,000, I think the last I looked, you can go to his island and hang out with him, and the band puts a concert on every day. But he walks around in nothing but white robes, looking like he's trying to look like Jesus or some shit. Equilibrium. That is the name of it. Yes. Now, is he my favorite male actor of all time? No. But is Christian Bale great? Absolutely, he is great. The only thing I've ever seen Jared Leto in that I liked was Blade Runner 2047. He was really good playing the creepy dude who owned Wallace Corporation. Because
I didn't like
Leto
that.
Does great. He's good as the creepy guy.
I didn't like the Blade Runner sequel. I mean, I thought it was shot very well. It looked neat. I thought that I felt like it was the sequel we didn't need or ask for.
Well, that's where you're wrong. I needed it. I asked for it. I've watched it 100 times at least. There are days when I sit around and think, you know what? Blade Runner 2047 might actually be better than the original. There's a lot of shit going on here. You know what I mean?
That is blasphemy saying it's better than the original.
It might
be.
Be.
Blasphemy.
I mean, Kay is a much more deep character than anyone in the original. And it asks a lot of weird questions that are simply not.
Oh yeah, Lord of War. Lord of War is a great movie.
Oh, Nicolas Cage when he walks up to the gun dealers and the guy flashes a gun and he just starts telling him what it is, what piece of shit it is. It was like, that guy didn't know he was talking to the Lord of War over here, you know?
Did you ever see Best Defense? It was a comedy. It was Chevy Chase and Gregory Hines and Sigourney Weaver about arms dealers.
No.
That's actually pretty funny. They're like, they sell like, like small arms and stuff, bullshit stuff. And they're down in some South American country and he's sharing a hotel. He's in the next room with some guy who's like from, it's basically Lockheed Martin, but they call it something else. He's there to sell them drones. And it's like, he's been waiting for 2 months for this call. And he's like losing his mind. The guy kills himself. And he's like, he like goes into the room because he hears the gunshot, and the phone rings, and he like assumes the guy's identity to make the sale. It's pretty funny.
Oh, another thing that Jared Leto was in was American Psycho. Christian Bale invites him over to the house, puts on Huey Lewis in the News, and then smacks him in the head with an axe. But then he didn't, because at the end of the movie, they say, no, that dude's in Europe. Yeah, I have the Blade Runner RPG. It is a really, really well done game, but it's a game for like a storyteller or GM and 2 players. It's like me. I mean, like tonight, when my D&D gamers come over, there'll be at least 6 to 10 people.
Yeah, and it has very limited legs.
Play a Blade Runner game with that many people. I mean,
yeah, it's got very limited legs what you can do, because it's going to be so repetitive after a while.
Well, I mean, yeah, the job is to hunt down replicants that have went on the run. That's basically all you do. But in the Blade Runner RPG, you can choose to play a replicant. So when you're making your character, one of your first choices are you a human or a Nexus 9? Kay was a Nexus 9. I have no idea what Love was. Hey, what's up, Shark? Love was a one-off. You know what I mean? Like, if you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. In 2047, Love was the girl that worked.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she wasn't an actual model. She was a
like
one-off
prototype kind of
thing. But in the end, Kay did choke her ass out and kill her. So, you know.
After she was dancing around, screaming about how better she was than everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when she killed the cop, and she's like, "You think we can't lie? I think I'll tell everyone you made a move on me first." Because, you know, it turned out Love could lie. You know. And poor Kay, you got to feel bad for Kay, because half of the movie, Kay thinks he might be Deckard and Rachel's child.
Yeah.
And then has it all drug out from under him, right? And then, you know, at the very end, you hear the quote from the one woman replicant: "The most human thing you can do is die for a good cause." And that's what he's thinking when he lays down on the steps in the snow and dies. Also, the Good Joe thing was weird, because his Joy was like, "I think your name should be Joe, right?" But then after she got destroyed and he got the shit beat out of himself, he's walking through the city. The giant hologram of Joy bends down, buck-ass naked, and says, "You look like a good Joe." And it's like, so it's like even deeper than Blade Runner 1, because not only do you got artificial humans, but you've got holographic humans. And it's like, you know, and also Kay asks a really interesting question when he's ordered to kill the child of Deckard. "Have a great Sunday to you, Lee." And he's like conflicted, and she's like, "What's the problem?" And he's like, "I've never killed something that was born before." And she's like, "Well, why would that matter?" And he's like, "Well, to be born would be to have a soul." And she's all like, "Well, are you telling me no?" And he's like, "I wasn't aware that was an option, man." And she's like, "That a boy. And besides, you've been doing just fine without one." And he's like, "Without one what?" And she's like, "A soul." So you see what I mean? There was just a lot more going on. A lot of questions, you know, like, does a replicant have a soul? Or do they not? It's some weird shit. Alien Earth, I don't know. I do remember there was one Alien Earth or Alien something where these aliens that were like bald and they flew around in like holographic ships or something. had come to Earth, and they were like supposedly helping us, but maybe not. And that was like a thing. And then, of course, everyone's favorite alien movie from way back in the day, V. The visitors are here to help. In actuality, they were stealing all of our oceans and eating us.
See, that bothered me because like water is like the most common compound in the entire universe. You wouldn't have to do that. there'd be no reason.
That is a fact. And that was the thing with Oblivion too. Which I watched Oblivion the other day just because it was on. I watched it. I like it. I'm sorry. Some people.
That's the Tom Cruise one.
But I think Tom Cruise is really good in a lot of movies. But the Tet, why would it want to steal Earth's oceans when in the Kuiper Belt there are literally millions and millions and millions of tons of ice just floating around?
Yeah, that's a problem with really all alien invasion things. There's really not any good reason to do it unless it's pure psychopathy.
Right.
We want to kill everything.
Like Independence Day. They go to places and then they eat all the resources and move on like locusts. And it's like, well, why are they coming to Earth? They could have stopped off at like Mars, Jupiter, like all the moons out there. They could have had all the resources they ever needed. Like for 1,000,000 years, we would have even known really. You know, it's like
and just the material you have in your home solar system.
We're from the government. We're here to help. Yeah, that's
to exhaust.
Man cannot create a soul. Only God can do that. Okay, Shark, but can a soul spontaneously appear? Like, could God give a artificial human a soul? Not man. Could God give an artificial human a soul? I'd have to ask my priest about that shit because that's like, you know, that's out there, you know. I mean, I would say Kay definitely had something going on. He was thinking, he had a conscience, he had an idea of good and evil. I mean, you know, he sacrificed his life for the good of others. But at the same time, he is an artificial being. So, of course, everything he did goes against his programming too, though. So you can't say he just did what he did because of
that's in Tolkien with the story of where the dwarves come from is kind of like that because one of the Valar makes the dwarves and they're initially just kind of automatons that just do what he tells them to. And then Eru shows up. It's like, hey, what do you think you're doing here? This is kind of like my thing. And he apologizes and he's going to destroy them, but he's like all upset about it. So Eru is like, no. And he like brings them to life. And he's like, I'll find a way to work them in.
He gives them a consciousness and then he makes them sleep because the elves
have to come first.
But Vol had created the dwarves out of order. But they were just like you said.
Yeah, they were robots. And
Jose, you're having a hard time connecting with humans? Man, I understand that.
Humans can be lame.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. I got to throw some coffee on.
You do that. I'm getting ready to paint Dracula. And I think it's going to be super easy since he's wearing blood red plate mail. You're talking about angels mating to make baby souls. That's Mormons. Yeah. I don't believe that, but the Mormons do. They think when you go to heaven, all your wives will be there and you'll spend all eternity having sex and creating little baby souls that fall to earth. And if there's not a pregnant woman for the baby soul to go into, it'll hit the ground and just wither up and die. Therefore, according to their religion, it's super important that every woman stay pregnant all the time. Otherwise, you're killing baby souls. And also, that's how they used to justify polygamy and all that. So, my brother and I used to live amongst them, but we're never of them, and they are incredibly nice people, but their religion is wackadoo as hell. I mean, it is just like, it's like if you go to a Mormon church, like a normal Mormon church, you would think they were Baptists right up until they start talking about the Book of Mormon. And then that shit takes a left turn and you're like, is this like what is it I used to call it, Hunger? Steampunk Scientology. That's Mormonism. It's steampunk Scientology. Because in a lot of ways, almost every important way, it functions just like Scientology, except, it's older. That's all. And then the whole church is ruled from Utah by a man elected to be the prophet and 12 apostles. And the Mormon church in Utah even has their own paramilitary organization called the Guardian Angels. And these are men whose whole job is just to guard the church. But again, they're really, really nice. They are also the only religion in the history of the United States that the United States government declared war on. Because they used to murder. It was a Mormon thing to gang up with some of the local tribes of Indians where they were and murder settlers as they were moving west towards Oregon and all that. And then take all of their possessions and then either use them themselves or sell them. And eventually, they got found out for their bloodthirstiness. And the United States declared war on the entire damn religion and sent in the cavalry. And the cavalry put an end to all that shit. And then the Mormon church surrendered to the United States. And that's when they were forced to end polygamy and lots of stuff they were doing. As a matter of fact, they also tried to make their own country in the United States. It was going to be like most of Utah and the surrounding states, and it was going to be called Deseret. And it was going to be an independent Mormon country. But then the U.S. government rolled in and was like, no. Yeah, there's a role-playing game about it, Coochie. It's called Dogs in the Orchard or something like that, where you play like 18-something, a Mormon. And like it's during the time after Joseph Smith has died, but Brigham Young is taking over. And, apparently during that time, there was a lot of shuffling and politics and stuff. They don't come to my house anymore. They came one time and I spent an hour explaining to them how they were wrong and quoting scripture and shit. And they were really nice about, they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. And then after like an hour, I was like, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go, have fun and all that. And they're like, okay, thank you so much. And they left. But yeah, they walked up and they're like, have you heard of blah, 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 and Jesus Christ? And I'm like, I'm Orthodox. I know way more about Jesus than you do. And I know that's prideful, but I'm an actual Christian and there's some weird cult. They're as bad as the Jehovah's Witness who think that Jesus Christ was actually the Archangel Michael and created by God, but not God.
Oh, we got a Jehovah's Witness guy at work who bothers you on your lunch break. Oh my God, I want to smack him.
Yeah. I had a friend when I was young that she was smoking when she was like 17. So the Jehovah's Witness church kicked her out and told her parents they weren't allowed to talk to her, and they did. Like if I were a member of a church and they're like, you have to kick your daughter out and cut her off and never talk to her again, I'd be like, yeah, this ain't a church for me. I'm out. You know,
They have the I saw some chart that covered it. They have the lowest retention rate of any religion.
do they?
Jehovah's Witnesses. Everybody leaves that. No,
They
actually,
used
has
to
the
come to my
highest.
house, and I
The
would just,
highest is Hindus. Actually, they're the least likely to leave their religion.
well, I mean, you know, why would you? It's every religion rolled up into one. I mean, you can worship a monkey god, you can worship an elephant, you can worship Vishnu, Krishna. If you want to be an asshole, you can worship Kali. I mean, you know, James, you are a man of culture when it comes to Christianity and history. Jose, I just read and talk shit. But there is one thing I know, and that is that anyone that tries to claim that the Trinity is separate and that Jesus Christ isn't God, they're automatically breaking doctrine, and that makes them heretical. And heretical just literally means a disagreement in doctrine. So, like, if I call you a heretic, it's not like I want you to die. I'm just saying you're not following doctrine. Hugh Grant plays a creepy guy who traps Mormon girls in his house. Oh my God. Terrifying. Do you remember that Spanish guy that had like those 2 or 3 girls in his house for like 15 years?
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. That's some creepy crap.
Creepy ass shit right there. Italian roast coffee. Shark, my wife thought today was Father's Day, even though it wasn't. And she went out and got me a Vietnamese coffee, which, you know, I've already drank. Because I love Vietnamese coffee. Yeah, that movie looks crazy. And you know what? Hugh Grant, it turns out, he went from rom-coms to playing incredibly creepy, scary dudes. And he did it really well. You know what I mean? Like Hugh Grant can be a creepy. It's like Robin Williams. You're so used to him being the charming guy, and then you see him in a movie and he's a sociopath. And you're like, you know who was the best at that? Andy Griffith. There's a movie called The Killer of Butcher County. And
I
Andy
never saw
Griffith
that.
plays a serial killer that runs around in the woods murdering people with an axe and shit like that. That movie is made like in the 60s. But when you see, you know, Sheriff Taylor or whatever his name is,
Yeah.
you know, run around the woods murdering people with a wood axe, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, Henry Fonda freaked everybody out in Once Upon a Time in the West.
Oh my God. Yeah. Killing kids and all that shit.
Yeah, he told a story I saw on YouTube actually when he's being interviewed not long after they made the movie, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get into this this character. I'm trying out different wigs and different like mustaches and stuff." And Sergio Leone was like, "No, no, no. I want people to look at you and say, 'Holy shit, that's Henry Fonda.'"
Well, when it
Like,
comes
oh,
to
okay.
making westerns, when it comes to making westerns, you could do a lot worse than to listen to Sergio Leone.
Oh, I loved his westerns. I loved the spaghetti westerns.
Yeah,
Or
'cause
his
that
spaghetti
dude-
westerns anyway.
He knew how westerns were supposed to be. Were they realistic necessarily? No. Were they awesome? Absolutely. Oh yeah, Andy Griffith hiding out in the woods next to a bonfire, screaming like a maniac, running around with an axe and shit in black and white, because the movie was black and white. And it's like, you're just like, you know, it's
Is
like,
that Matlock?
I was like, because growing up, we only had a couple channels and all they played was shit from like 2 decades before. So the Andy Griffith show came on like twice a day.
Yeah, I used to watch it all the time when I was little, I remember.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in the West. It's got old Charlie Bronson in it. He shows up whistling, freaking kills those guys at the train station. And then you got freaking Henry Fonda just murdering a whole family. It's like, God, dog, man. Yeah, but Sergio Leone, of course, his best Western of all time. Some people will say Good, Bad, and the Ugly, but I honestly think it's the For a Few Dollars More. or
I'm
Fistful of
torn
Dollars.
there. I love all three of the Clint Eastwood ones.
Oh yeah.
I can't choose between them.
I mean, such a great scene when he rides into town and those dudes shoot at his donkey though, and he goes over there and he's like,
My mule
"Guys, to my donkey."
thinks
or
you're
whatever.
making fun of him. He don't like that.
Yeah,
If
he
you were
got
to
blown.
apologize.
Yeah. Yeah, growing up, because again, we had like 2 channels, and the channels we had were super broke channels. All we ever got to see was shit from like 20 years before that was in syndication for cheap. So it was like the Andy Griffith Show, Bewitched, freaking The Wheel of Fortune, shit like that. And it's like The Wheel of Fortune with the guy that was in Running Man, you know, and so like there were no like modern new shows on our television. It was all like syndication shows from like whenever. But to be honest, we didn't watch a lot of TV. I know me and my grandma, our thing was after I come home from school, we always watched the Smurfs together. That was kind of our family together time, the Smurfs. Yeah, that whole trilogy is amazing. But you know what? Clint Eastwood, just something about that dude makes him good to be in a Western, you know, like Hang 'em High and all that.
High Plains Drifter is one of my favorites.
Oh, High Plains Drifter, which is The Crow, but before The Crow.
Yeah.
Not that I'm taking away from The Crow, because I actually love the movie The Crow. I thought it was a great movie, and it's got, you know, The Cure in it. But anyway, yeah, The Crow is nothing but High Plains Drifter set in Detroit. You know? At the very end, when the midget's like, "Mister, you never did tell me your name," and he looks down at the tombstone, he says, "You know my name." Rides off.
And then the heat waves, and he's
The heat
gone.
wave hits, and he just vanishes. Yeah, well, see, here's the thing, Hungar. They're not connected, but it's the man with no name. But the movies exist in this weird sort of place where it's the same lead character, but not necessarily the movies are in any chronological order at all. But yeah, and what it was is, what's his name? The Japanese guy, Kurosawa.
Yeah, Kurosawa.
Kurosawa
awesome.
ripped off old school Westerns, like the ones that were made in the 20s and 30s, and turned them into samurai movies. And then Sergio Leone rolled in and ripped off the samurai movies and turned them back into Westerns. So there's like this big circle going on here, you know, because like the one where I think it's Yojimbo, when he goes into the village and the one guy's got the pistol and there's like the 2 forces there and he's playing them off against each other. That's just Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah.
But they copied it from an actual old Western that had like those really old guys in it from the 30s, you know? Like that was a thing that Kurosawa did. Like the movie Ran, that's just King Lear.
Yeah, that's King Lear.
Except instead of daughters, he has sons. But it's King Lear, straight up, just set in feudal Japan. Amazing movie. Amazing movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, the studio that he was working for wanted to kill him over that, because he's like such a like wacko perfectionist. He had the entire set out for a battle scene, so like thousands of like people who are getting paid, and he kept them out there for like a week because he didn't like the way the clouds looked. He's like, "No, I'm not shooting this till the clouds are right." And the studio that was backing it was like, "We're like on the verge of assassinating you." We're driving the budget up.
The other thing about Ron is that a bunch of other directors, they actually lied. And the movie was basically financed through extortion and backdoor deals and like all kinds of crazy shit, because the other Japanese producers believed in it. but the studio was like, no effing way. So like all the directors got together and pulled some shady business to get that shit done. Nothing like a good piece of hair. Are you making a reference, Shark, to Walking Tall?
Oh no, that's Pale Rider.
Oh yeah, when he beats them all with that
Yeah.
freaking axe handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Pale Rider. Those guys. Pale Rider is another one that, I mean, you guys tell me, was he a revenant or was he just lucky and got shot 6 times in the back and lived to seek revenge?
I always wondered if that was supposed to be like an unspoken sequel to Hang 'em High.
But you see what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Because like in High Plains Drifter, it's obvious he's a revenant.
Yeah.
You know, he is that marshal they beat to death and he's come back, right? In Pale Drifter, the main bad guy thought that he'd killed that dude. And there's the scene where he's like showering up and you see the bullet holes in his back. So did he just survive getting shot in the back a lot? Or
And he's got the noose scar too.
yeah. Or is he a revenant? So definitely the possibility of some supernatural shit going on there. Okay, let's see. I was raised. Hey, Cal, the new Daggerheart has that political bent. Man, that game sucks. Come on.
Yeah, it's barely even qualifies as a game. It's and I have no animosity at all towards Critical Role.
Me
but
neither.
They're not a gaming group. They're an improv group, and their games are improv tools, not games.
I agree. Not only do I not have any problem with Critical Role, I have nothing but respect for those guys. Because they took something and made millions of dollars doing it. And it's like, I'm not a hater, man. I'm a congratulator. If you got the brains and the whatever to take something so silly as live play and turn it into a multi-million-dollar fortune, I'm going to high five you. I'm not going to talk shit. But their game sucks. He's also a preacher. He's riding a pale horse. So he could be death. I mean,
and that's another thing. I remember
Death rides
talking
on
about
pale horse.
with my mother about this when we watched it on cable one time. Is he really a preacher, or is that this thing he puts on
Right.
when it suits him?
When it suits him. Is he alive or dead? Is he literally death that has come to seek, revenge on somebody for doing something? I mean, technically, he could have been an angel sent down from God to avenge some kind of great misdeed. I mean, we don't know. That's the thing. We literally just don't know.
A lot of people think the Hospitaller in Kingdom of Heaven might be an angel.
I have read that theory that the one dude was literally an angel that was looking out for him, but he died in that battle. So it's like, but can an angel die?
No, but he might throw away the body he was using.
But he might throw away the body he was possessing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Cal, a lot of people talk shit about CR, and they are more than welcome to do. I've made fun of them, and I love it when Double D shows what's her name in her slutty phase washing the Batmobile. I mean, I love that because in the modern day, her and Matt Mercer are like, he's a male feminist and all this shit. But of course, Mr. Male Feminist is married to the hot redhead that used to rub her ass up against the Batmobile. So it's like, yeah, get out of here. You know, I mean, at least he didn't marry an OnlyFans girl though. So high five on that. But yeah, they come up with an idea. They started off as no visual, just I used to listen to it on my little, thing. You could download the podcast. What's up, Bruce? And then they turned it into a thing you can watch. And then they made millions of dollars. And then some of their own fans got super mad at them for making millions of dollars because apparently there's a portion of critters that are like literal communists. And they were super mad that Critical Role made that much money. And it's like, I mean, I will say this about Matt Mercer and crew. Those guys get more death threats from their supposed fans than anyone on the planet. Like when that one character died, freaking there were people threatening to murder Matt Mercer. And it's just like, these are some not stable individuals.
They're like borderline. It's a soap opera.
To quote,
you get soap opera style fans.
To quote
take shit way
Donald
too seriously.
Trump, these are not very stable people, geniuses. How he said he was a very stable genius. Yeah, these are not that. I don't know what the hell they're thinking, but they are not that. And it's like, so anyway, he needs a gloss coat and a sword done, but otherwise, check him out.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's Dracula from the Bram Stoker movie and all that weird armor. But when it's got the gloss coat on it, it'll look way better. Don't get me started on communist gamers. I don't understand why there's so many communist gamers. Because it's like, one, no communist nation has ever invented a role-playing game. And two, if you're truly communist, then why are you pretending to be a guy that goes out on his own and tries to seek his own fortune through the free market or basically, strength of arms? You're not being a very good communist. It's like, I'm a communist in real life, but in this role-playing game, I play a free market capitalist that's willing to mug orcs for silver. It's like, yeah, there's a break there, Like, I don't think you understand. Yeah, F that combat wheelchair.
That's just so
10 toes down on that shit. If anyone came to my table and said they wanted to play a character in a wheelchair in a fantasy game, I'd tell them to get. I would not talk. Because I do not believe the right thing to do is to go along with somebody's mental illness, because then they never stop being mentally ill. Right? If somebody's mentally ill, pretending they're not is you're not doing them a favor.
No.
Right? Now, if I were running Traveler and they said they wanted to play a 70-year-old doctor that's in a wheelchair because he's really old, I'd be like, all right, it's the future. You got a wheelchair. Whatever, Maybe if you make the 1 million+ credits, you can have a full cyborg conversion. That'd be fun, right? They literally take your brain out and put it into a mechanical body. But it's very, very expensive. So, not just everybody can do that.
I got to head out. I got to do a bunch of prep work for my game later.
Okay.
Good seeing you, James, and everyone in chat. Everybody take care.
See, I'm a bad DM because I never do prep.
I got maps and stuff to make.
All right.
I'll catch you later.
Catch you later. Yeah, I think I stopped doing prep about 20 years ago. What's up, bro?
Brother. I don't think I make game tonight.
You don't think so?
Yeah.
That makes me very sad.
I haven't slept yet.
We'll go to sleep. I'll wake you up when it's time for the game.
Dude, I'm not doing very well.
Man, don't tell me that. You'll have me worried.
It's not that. It's just dehydrated and stuff. I'm just wore out.
Yeah, I don't need any of that.
So I'm just going to sleep tonight.
Bruce. Boom. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, how's it going, Ross? How's it going, James?
Oh, well, better now that you're here.
We get to hang out with Bruce.
I do get to hang out with Bruce, which is always a joy.
Yeah.
Hope you guys are doing great today.
Well,
Can you hear me
I
okay?
am, because my wife thought today was Father's Day and went out and bought me like Vietnamese coffee and a sandwich and, was super awesome. And then later we found out that actually next week is Father's Day.
I bought my dad a Bird of Prey Christmas ornament from Hallmark from 1994.
Huh.
And it should be getting shipped to him like Tuesday.
I don't usually buy my dad anything, but if I were going to this year, I know what I would buy. And that would be probably a shit ton of like 5.56 ammo.
And you know me, I'm always doing good, Bruce.
Yeah. Because my pops likes to go out in the backyard. We got a gun range up there and like pop rounds off. So it's kind of like a hobby for him, you know. And it's cool because he's firing down range and then the mountain goes up. So, you know, safe. And in Kentucky, you can have a gun range as long as it's more than so many 100 feet from any neighbor. And we haven't got a neighbor within half a mile. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah. But if I go up on top of the mountain and look down, I can see in the valley all the houses. So it is kind of crazy like that.
Yeah, it's the best view ever.
Yep.
You guys ever, you ever think about like moving back to Kentucky and
Oh, my wife and I are definitely moving back to Kentucky when she's done with her service to her company.
I'm staying in Tennessee.
When she retires.
I'm staying in Tennessee because state tax in Kentucky is outrageous.
that's why I'm staying out of Illinois.
Yeah, that my wife was thinking Tennessee too. And honestly, if we end up in Tennessee, that would be fine too. You know?
Yeah, because where I'm at in Tennessee, I'm only an hour away
As
from.
long as we're close enough that we can swing in and see my mom on occasion.
Yeah, I'm like an hour away from the rents. So
Yeah, Journey to the Radiant Citadel is basically nothing but propaganda. That was like, I would say maybe the worst D&D book ever made. And I'm not 100% sure who they were even making that for. I will tell you this. You don't got to do it right now since you're hanging out with me, Coochie. But Double D, if you go to his channel and you look at his backlog, he literally went through that book page by page and explained how stupid it actually is. It was one of his first big videos. It's like there's an adventure where the whole thing is to like get peppers from one guy and give them to another guy so that guy can make curry for a third guy. And like, it is just freaking lame.
Okay, basically that could be a good adventure because you're doing, logistics. And I love adventures where you take spices from one place to another, but are they attacked by like vicious, horny orcs or goblins?
No, they live in the city at the Radiant Citadel, which is a utopian city where like housing is free and like basically somebody wrote it up like, your atypical communist utopia.
yeah, it sounds like communist propaganda to me.
And you're
Everybody writes a
there
bicycle.
doing your thing, right? And the other great thing about it is they actually made a point of saying how not a single white person worked on any of the adventures in the book. And how they doubled down on like all the different ethnicities. Like in the Radiant Citadel, there's a lot of like, Hindi type Indians and Jamaicans and shit like that, but basically no Europeans at all. And that's just the thing they decided to do. What's funny though, is the guy in charge of the overall project was a white guy.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing the photos and hearing my fellow brethrens in the sheets say, "You're a race traitor."
So it's like,
just kidding, guys. Come on.
It's funny though, because they're like, this book was made 100% by minorities. And then you find out that the lead in charge of production was some white nerdy dude.
It's literally like getting a book from any location for anything, any book you possibly could pick up, and they proudly proclaim on the front, back, and spine, this book was made completely from 100% recycled products. There was no oil field that was required for this book to be created, etc., etc. And you open it up for content, and it's just absolute shit. There's zero fucking content or use of the book whatsoever. The pages don't even burn right. It's just an absolute fucking failure.
But anyway, yeah, the Radiant Citadel was 100% communist propaganda. That's all it was.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Yesterday, my players they got one step closer to getting to their end goal of the top of the Tsar city where the Cathedral of Orcus sits.
Well,
And,
I know. I was in your chat.
Thank you, sir, for being there.
You scared me because at one point I thought I heard you say, this is for Connell who can't be with us. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because I knew Connell was sick a while back, right?
Yeah.
So my mind immediately went to, is Connell dead? But
Not to our
luckily
knowledge.
another person in your chat was like, no, he's not dead. He's at his daughter's. And I was like, thank God, man. I was so worried. I know I haven't seen Connell in a while, but I was upset. I was like, damn,
I'm
man.
going to tell Connell that because he's been going through some fucking shit lately, and just whenever you've got things going on in your head that really can be quelled with just like a beer and a cigar.
Yeah.
Like he just needs to hear that somebody like not related to him was like, dude, where have you been? Kind of missed you. So he'll be happy.
Well, I do miss Connell. He used to join me. I'd make fun of him a little bit, treat him like my little brother. And then he
Little
just
retarded
got
brother.
busy doing other shit. Or I offended him. I don't know. Because I know Justin got really mad, and that's why he don't hang out with me. Because he says I told him I banged his mom. And I might have actually told him that. But if I did, it was a joke because I was making fun of the fact that I'm 30 years older than him. And I was like, if you think about it, I might have slept with your mom. You could be my son. And instead of taking it like a bro and laughing it off and being like, fuck you, which is what I would have done.
Yeah.
Apparently he took it all personal and he's like, I'm not going to talk to that guy anymore. And now he just hangs out with Shadow on occasion.
I can understand because at one point I was a pussy, so I can understand at one point, where Justin would be running.
Oh, me too. When I was young, if somebody said something about my mom, they're getting their jaw jacked.
Yeah.
Like no questions asked, just immediately. But I mean,
we're-
when you're hanging with the bros,
Yeah.
come
It's
on.
different.
And even though he is kind of a Yahtzee effer, I was like, whatever, he's young. He'll grow out of it probably. You know what I mean? Of course I was joking. I've never been to Toronto. Who would ever want to go to Toronto?
I don't know. That makes me question everything. Why would anybody want to live there, much less even visit, unless you're going to make money? But you don't really stick around. You have enough time when you're done to go grab a Horton's coffee and a donut and then get on a plane and fly the hell away.
Look, I don't know what Justin's mom looks like. I don't know if she's beautiful or not, but there's no vagina worth me going to Toronto.
I can agree with that.
You can count on that shit, like going across the bridge to Winchester or whatever from Michigan. That's a different story. But Toronto, no. F that shit. It's like New York, except stupider. So if I'm going to a city like that, I'd just go to New York. Fucking hang out in Queens. At least I know people there.
That's the greatest burn I've ever heard about Toronto. It's like New York, but stupider.
Right. I mean, it's like, I just can't imagine. And like half of the population of that country lives in Toronto.
Yeah.
And the other half lives in fucking Montreal. It's
Along the
it's
border
like,
of Canada and the U.S. Like that's all it is.
It's like whatever, man. But yeah, since I actually know people in Queens, if I'm going to a big city, I'm going to Queens. You know. Plus, back when I had a thick Southern accent, New Yorkers loved it. Like you have random New Yorkers asking you to say stuff just because they're like, they love to hear your accent, you know? That's what they did to my mom. She went up there and she's walking around, and my mom has a really, really thick Appalachian accent. You know what I mean? And the New Yorkers loved it. Like literally, she'd be sitting somewhere and somebody'd overhear her say something to my dad, and they'd be like, "Where are you from?" And she'd be like, "Kentucky," and they'd be like, "You have the most beautiful accent I've ever heard." I mean, New Yorkers being nice.
Yeah,
Because you know, my little brown-haired mom with her thick Southern accent. You know, well, it's not Southern, but you know what I mean. Right?
it's Appalachian.
Who the F is Justin? Justin is a dude that hangs out with Haas. We played a lot of Conan together. I mean, sometimes he can be super cool, and sometimes he can be a little annoying. He's got flaws like we all do. But yeah, I think I pissed him off joking around with him,
Is there
and
more
he
for
never
now?
got over it. He never got over it. So every now and then I'll join Shadow's show and he's on it, and he'll just sit there and be quiet. The other person that is an internet person that you see on other people's channel that's like that is Nerds Nerd. She'll hang out on Bear's show, but if Bear invites me, she'll just shut up and never say another word for like 2 hours.
I don't know why she does that. Like,
Because I told her that I was pretty sure I could take her girlfriend. And I also pointed out how every lesbian I've ever known has dabbled with the cock at least once or twice a year.
that's funny as hell.
And I think that offended her because she's a lesbian ex-Marine.
All lesbians are. What's that phrase where like some locks are just busted until the right key comes along?
Right.
Okay.
Lesbianism is bullshit, and I'll tell you why. You never see a lesbian at the porno store buying a fake vagina.
That's great.
Actually, a good point.
That's a great point. Gosh.
I know I saw a thing, I think on Nuxanor Chan, and he was talking about all the lesbians are mad at some chick because apparently she created what they called lesbian pop. And then she got married to a dude. So all the lesbians are like, she just set lesbianism back 100 years and all this shit. And it's just like, no, when she was 16, she thought she was a lesbian. And then she grew up and realized, no, she wanted a husband. So, no, she did not set you back. It's not about you. Get the fuck over yourself.
Get all
Yeah.
these with their rusty scissors.
But yeah, it's like running with scissors. But it
Rusty.
is a fact. Hungar is 100% true. It's like you got this woman. She's like, I'm a lesbian. But when she's hanging out with the other woman, who's generally one of them will be feminine and the other one will pretend to be a dude, because I worked with one. What do? They go to town on each other with giant freaking ribbed dildos.
Yeah, I know. I worked at that adult video store. Remember?
Yes, I do remember, but I wasn't going to say anything.
And
So it's like so basically what you're saying is you love the cock, you just for some reason don't trust men. And that's why I said what I said, because growing up in the circles I grew up in, Hungar can attest to this, there were a lot of lesbians. And guaranteed once or twice in a year, those lesbians would dabble with the cock. Everyone, maybe not permanently. I mean, I had this one lesbian named Amy who was married to a girl named Tina, and Amy was all over my dick. and I might have done it, but I was dating another girl named Fawn, and I'm very monogamous. But I know for a fact I could have fucked Amy, and she was supposedly a lesbian.
They got this new drug for depressed lesbians called tricoxagen.
What?
A new drug for depressed lesbians, and its name is tricoxagen.
Tricoxagen.
Tricoxagen. God, I'll have to remember that. Thank you.
Yeah, you know who did the best thing about lesbians of all time? Kevin Smith in Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
When he drove the road and he's like the male-friendly lesbian, the Bull Dyke man-hate lesbian, the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, and there's a $100 bill in the middle. Who gets it? And the one guy's like, I don't know. And he's like, the man-hating lesbian. And the other guy's like, why? And he's like, because the other three don't fucking exist. Excuse me, yo, but man, he said that shit, and I was like, that's true. That is, in my experience, hanging out at the vampire game, which was at least half gay people. Yeah, 100%. Another weird thing I found out about gay people, gay men are obsessed with.
Gay men are happy. And you see these women, they're always talking about men suck it.
I do.
And, you know, I've never had sex with a man where it's decent. Men are horrible at sex. And I'm just like, there's too many gay dudes out there that are really, really happy. It's like, at one point in time, you're going to have to look and see maybe you're the problem.
See, I've never had a problem with gay dudes.
Me neither. Not only do they take themselves out of the
As
game,
long as they like, you know,
gay dudes are cool because they
like
take themselves out of the game,
Jason.
and they take a buddy with them. So you know,
My internet's active.
You don't have a storm going on right now, do you? Okay, I guess he does.
he'll be back.
I can. Yeah. How have you been, man?
Good. I might get to go home tomorrow.
I got your papers.
All right. Tell my brother that I'll talk to him later.
Fair enough. You have yourself a good morning, my friend.
You too, buddy.
All right, guys. I'm going to be in here until James gets back in here. Then we'll just do the dual crafting stream. Oh, there's James. Hey, there you go.
Here I am.
Your brother said he'll talk to you later. He got a nurse in the room with him, and
Yeah.
I'm sure things are going on. Hopefully, he's going to be just fine. And like he said, discharged later this afternoon.
I hope. But yeah, when I was heavy into the LARPing and vampire thing, literally half of the dudes there were gay, and I got along with every damn one of them.
Yeah.
But they all knew because, you know, I was kind of, at that time, the big jack dude that wearing all black with Doc Martens, that I wasn't the guy to try to hit on. You
Yeah.
know?
Kind of was my thing back in '99 whenever I played One World by Night, and there was just a group of what were they, Gambinos, or what's the Italian clan out of Sabatba?
Oh, Giovanni.
Yeah, we were all there's like 5 Giovannis in Springfield, Illinois, which I thought was hilarious. And then one weekend I was like, you know, I just want to run my D&D game. And so I played my D&D game. Angel, the girl that she was our cute chick, she was a Giovanni that was primarily focused in archaeology.
I think Giovanni's just Italian for Jonathan.
Yeah. Well, our clan leader got absolutely murdered that weekend. And I'm like, oops,
Uh-oh.
better not go back to that.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that, you know. I mean, like I've said before, I don't ever want to go back, but it's nice to sit on my old fat ass now and think about it. Be like, wow, man, that was kind of interesting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I showed my wife the video by Artyom. I Like the Way You Kiss Me. And, you know, I explained to her that that was basically my life in the 90s. That video. And she, of course, looked at it and said, yeah, that's disgusting. I was like, yeah, but that was kind of it, you know? Just partying, working and partying. That was all I did.
Sounds like fun.
I mean, go to work, construction, get off work, go to the goth club, go to somebody's house who's having a party, you know, just freaking whatever, man. So I'm painting the jackets on these sci-fi characters that I downloaded. These guys come from War Games Atlantic, which is awesome. And they're called Runner Hunters. And they're multi-part, so they got different weapons and everything, different whatever. But they're basically Blade Runners. And you can get them in male and female. So with different heads and everything like that. If I run Traveler, these are the characters I'll probably use to represent the players. Especially since in Traveler 2300, one of the most common sets of armor is a lined long jacket. So it's basically, it just looks like a long jacket, but it's made out of ballistic material. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. But, you know, painting them up. And then this guy, this is what I wanted him to look like.
Japanese samurai?
That is focus. Come on, focus.
Pull your hand back a half inch.
How about this? Sometimes this works.
Still kind of fuzzy, but kind of get the idea.
Yeah, if you could actually see him, you would know that that is Dracula from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, shit.
He's got like the armor that has all the muscle things on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got the weird helmet. And then I've got another one I just did because this was a multi-part kit. I need to do his face and hair. But this one, instead of, oh, see, look at that focus in.
Amazing focus.
Chalice of blood they drinks. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's Vlad Dracul. And I have no idea what I'll use him for in a D&D game, but hey, I'm going to have him. He could make a good villain, right? Zapata soup. Nice. Zapata soup. So
I ran a game till 8 last night. I had a fun time with that. Afterwards, I got on my Steam account. And I've been struggling with the game lately. I wasn't really having fun with Armored Core 6. Like, the first boss, really kind of a killjoy. Because they're like, oh, you have to learn how to beat the first boss to unlock the rest of the game. I'm like, well, that's fine, but I really don't like the loadout they give me. I want to modify my robot. Well, you can't do that yet. Okay, well, I want to have a better combat arena. Like, I need to learn how to use it to cover better. I thought I was doing pretty good until I got spammed to death by AoE. And I'm like, I played this game for 55 minutes. And it's pretty, but I'm absolutely wanting to take my keyboard and smash a developer at FromSoft upside the head until I have a bloody keyboard. I can't stand this game. So I uninstalled it. I'm like, no. And then I read that they were not really big on PC players and mouse and keyboard users. So I'm done. I'm done with that.
The Barons were in 15mm scale. You're doing, wow.
Ooh.
That sounds cool.
Squirrel, you going to post that to your YouTube or to some way we could see that when you're finito on that? That sounds like fun.
Yeah. That's crazy too, because Barons War is a game. I don't know who makes it, but War Games Atlantic supports it. And they sell like a bunch of kits specifically for Barons War, like, sergeants on foot and whatever else. But doing it at 15 mil, I mean, will make it a lot easier to have castles and stuff in the game. Because, you can find 15 mil 3D printed castles like on Etsy and stuff like that. And they're not super expensive. But trying to find terrain at 28 mil, that's where you end up dropping like $100 plus for, a very small keep or something, It's there's a guy on YouTube's got a channel all about playing D&D at 15 mil, and he talks about that.
That should help you out. Looks like a UK created company, Footsore Miniatures and Games.
Oh yeah, Footsore. I've heard Footsore. I mean, they've been around forever. Yeah, I've heard of them. I have become a War Games Atlantic guy. Back in the day, it was a company that I only bought stuff from because it was cheap, and not necessarily really good, but it was cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except lately, a lot of the stuff they're putting out is not only still cheap, but it's really good.
If you scroll down on that page I just sent you,
Yeah.
the deal they've got, the Baron's Footwear Retinue Plastic, it looks like they've got about 35 to 40 figures. About 20 of them are peasant, and then the other 20 look like they're knights.
Yeah, that's a typical force. Levy troops and then a few knights and men at arms. Apparently, I think it was in France, but I think it was France. There was this whole deal where all the barons just started duking it out with each other over whatever. Might have been France. Could have been England, but
Between first and second edition Frostgrave, is there like a big super difference with it, or
second edition neatens up everything?
Okay.
So yeah. Now, unfortunately, unless it's recently came out and I'm unaware of it, second edition has yet to add like champions and stuff. And the first edition book really doesn't work very well with the new rules.
Okay.
But in first edition, you could actually have a non-magician guy in your warband, like a fighter that could gain XP and get badass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if they've added that in second edition yet, but I wish they would. As a matter of fact, I wish they would just, I wish they would make it where you could just straight up play a warband without a mage. Like you could just play a warrior with a bunch of other warriors. I mean, would you be at disadvantage because of magic? Maybe somewhat.
Yeah, possibly.
But on the other hand, your guy would be a badass running around the battlefield just whipping people's ass. So, they'd have to figure out how to balance it. But it would basically be you're playing the warrior type. Everyone else is playing spellcasters, maybe. And you've got your henchmen and they've got their henchmen. I don't see how that would be very difficult, especially since they did it in Stargrave. Like in Stargrave, you can play a Space Marine with straight up with like power armor and the whole 9 yards.
That sounds like fun.
Well, it's Frostgrave except sci-fi, and you and the other crews, because your thing is considered to be the crew of your ship. And you got, it's like Serenity. You're living on the jagged edge, So every battle, you set up the terrain and you put the tokens down, and the tokens represent lost tech or basically anything you think you can sell. So you and the other crews are duking it out to try to get as much scrap or whatever to sell, right? And then on top of that, you know, there's NPCs that can show up and ruin your whole day. Pirates and whatnot, you know.
That sounds like a fun game. I don't know where anybody would have a problem with that.
It is a fun game. I own it.
I've got the first edition. I just never got a chance to fucking campaign it.
Yeah, and later they add a book that adds like zombies. It's like there's some kind of weird plague that hits. So whenever you go on missions, there's a chance that the plague could be there. And then you end up fighting like the undead remain, or not undead, reanimated remains of like, you know, other troopers and stuff like that, you know. They kind of, I think it's a fungal thing, an alien fungus or something. So it's kind of like Last of Us, but in space.
See, I thought you were saying that about Frostgrave, and I'm like,
No,
oh,
I'm talking about
cool.
Stargrave.
That'd be kind of cool if, like, you're walking around and you've got your war bands hiking around the thawed part of the city, and then all of a sudden, here comes a bunch of Draugrs that, you know, used to be city inhabitants, but now the city is trying to defend itself and keep its treasures safe.
That absolutely can happen. One mission that we played, because we would play it 3 and 4 players at a time. And, you know, Hungar and me and some of our friends. And there is a mission where in the very center of the table, right, you put a crypt down. And every round you roll like a die, whatever, to get which side of the crypt. And you put a skeleton down. And the skeleton will then immediately move towards the nearest player it can see, a character, you know. And if you're within range for a charge, it'll charge and try to kill your henchmen and shit. And if you hide out, though, the skeleton won't move. But then what happens is, you know, as every round goes by, more and more skeletons build up until, you know, you've got this horde of skeletons. And as soon as they see somebody, they start running across the board at them. And they only got 1 hit point, so they can't take any damage before dying. But they do full damage with their swords. So while all you got to do is hit them to kill them, they can still kill your guys too. You know what I mean? And it got so bad on us that we called a truce between our war bands just so we could gang up on the undead and kill them. Because otherwise, I mean, we weren't getting any treasures, you know? And plus, I was playing a thaumaturgist in that game, which is basically a cleric. So all my spells were support spells and heals and whatever. And Haas was playing an elementalist, so, you know, he's shooting fire bolts and shit at everybody. And then one of the other guys was playing a necromancer. So he had a zombie and a bunch of shit like that. And
So somebody just mentioned Relic
Pretty loud.
Blade in your chat. And I'm looking at relicblade.com. Sean Sutter looks like he's made a very good successor to Mordheim.
well, that's what Frostgrave is Mordheim, but better.
Yeah.
And the main thing that makes Frostgrave better than Mordheim is the basic troop choice. There's 2 basic troop choices, and they cost 0 gold to hire. So if you were to go into a battle and have the worst game of your life and lose your entire warband. As long as the leader of the warband survives, you can always compete. Whereas there were times in Mordheim where if you just lost enough shit, you were out. You were done. You would never recover.
No, that's the problem I have with the GW games like Mordheim and Necromunda.
Yeah.
Like, if you have one bad game where like 3 guys get waxed, your warband's over. You don't have the time in the league to retake your juicers or your juvies and level them up into somebody worth a shit.
Right. Hey, William. And that is, again, you're right, a huge problem with the GW games. And Frostgrave and Stargrave fix that. If like Frostgrave specifically, the thief and the thug are 0 gold to hire. And a thief is basically really fast but has no armor and is equipped with a dagger. And a thug is a dude in really light armor with a hand weapon. And in Frostgrave, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters when it comes to which miniature you use is that they have the right weapon in their hand. So if you've got like a mob of goblins that aren't wearing any armor and got daggers, they can be your thieves. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, Hungar was using halflings and goblins and a little bit of everything for his army, you know? Whereas my army was all human, but that's because I'm a human supremacist.
Human supremacy for the win.
Yeah, yeah. But let's say you want to play Frostgrave and you're like a huge fan of dwarves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just get you dwarves that are armored and equipped correctly for whatever their role is and go town. Go town. You know? Like I've got all these orcs here. Like this orc I'm working on right now, he's got a sword. He could have a shield, but he's got a sword and he's wearing plate armor, right? I could take him in a Frostgrave game as a warrior. As a matter of fact, I could make a whole orc Frostgrave game. I could use the archers for archers. I could use the orc shaman as the leader of the gang. And then use orc scouts as, you know, thieves or thugs, depending. And yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of Frostgrave. And another thing beautiful about that, the guy who makes Frostgrave, he also makes Oathmark.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to play a war game, that game is so good because, again, you can use any miniatures you want. And before you make your army, you make your kingdom. And so to make a kingdom, you pick your capital, then you pick the regions you rule, and each region gives you like a different troop choice that you can take. So if you take a human city, you can start the game with like human spearmen, human this, human champions, whatever. But then if you also take a mountain range, you can start with dwarves. And if you take a swamp, then you can start with freaking goblins or something.
Lizard men or something.
Right. And so you, depending on the provinces you pick, you could literally start the game where you have someone from every playable race in your army. Dwarves, orcs, goblins, elves, halflings, humans, and the undead. Because the undead aren't necessarily evil in Oathmark. I mean, some of them are like the undead from Lord of the Rings. They just have something they got to do. So, yeah. Pretty interesting stuff. And depending on the points you play, I mean, you don't even need that many miniatures to play the game. Really. Like, I think we play 2,500 points. And my whole army fits in like a little box. And I mean a little box, not, you know, like one of those little craft boxes that you might keep paint in. My whole army fits in that. Now, there is a reason my whole army is humans mounted on horseback. So every unit I have is a pretty expensive unit to field, right? And I filled 2 units of knights, which are heavy infantry, then 2 units of light infantry with bows, 2 units of standard infantry, a general, a wizard, and I think that's about it. See, here's what's weird, Daryl. And I mean, I'm not saying I would approve or not approve, but the reality is, according to the US Constitution and our legal system, looters absolutely can be legally shot. So I'm not saying we'll do that, but yeah,
It's
looting.
a possibility. I don't think they should.
Yeah, looting, like I know according to Uniform Code of Military Justice, if they catch you looting as a soldier, they can hang you. If that's what the officer wants to do. I mean, you know, and that's laws that go all the way back to like George Washington and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, I don't know if it'd be a good idea. But they sent the National Guard in, but it's like, unless the National Guard are actually going to do something, then what's the point?
That's
You
the
know?
problem. Will they?
I mean, it's like sending in a bunch of cops. If all the cops do is stand in a line and stare at the rioters while they're burning shit down, then, I mean, why even have cops there? I mean, what's the point? You're not doing anything. And, you know, of course, people will freak out and be like, oh my God, the National Guard just beat the shit out of somebody or something. And my opinion is, well, good for you, man. Good for you.
You remember back in elementary school or middle school, the Kent State University thing was just one generation away, and the teachers were talking about it like it was some terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, just a few weeks before we studied that part in social studies, oddly enough, aptly named study. Before we studied that, our teacher had taken us to a college, and we were just kind of moseying around, and some of us were treated rather poorly by some of the staff and students because we were kind of in the way. But we're like 5th graders, you know, we don't know our ass from a hole in the wall, so we're just on a field trip trying to like enjoy the time away from school together. And I felt like the college was full of assholes.
Yeah.
And so when we got to the Kent State shit, I'm reading this, and I added at the very end, I was like, it sounds like we could probably use more Army National Guard people at more colleges. Apparently, that's the wrong thing to say.
Right.
And they're like, why did you say such a thing? And I'm like, I got treated like crap over at that stupid college you went to on the field trip. The only good part was going to Pizza Hut and playing Hogan's Alley. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, freaking boomer ass hippies. They're the worst.
Shark, if you're still in the chat, I just sent you a message on the RPG site. That looks like a fun little place, man.
But yeah, it's like everybody out there rioting, they're just people without jobs.
Yeah.
They're like the biggest failures in our society. They don't have a job, they don't have a family, they got nothing better to do.
They're going to go be on fentanyl with this money they make. That's all.
So they're going to go out here and carry on. And it's like, and you know it's an American riot when you don't see any American flags.
None.
That's how you can tell it's a leftist riot. When you see a 400-pound white chick with a pierced nose and tats all over herself waving a Mexican flag in the middle of the street. It's like, you're not even Mexican. You know, get the F out of here. Hey, it's Holy Diver. What's up, bro?
Hey, I just wanted to get you. I heard you talking earlier before I started my stream I wanted to get your take on what do you think Russia did?
According to what I've seen, they launched around 400 cruise missiles, including Orychniks, all over Ukraine
shit.
and fucked them up really bad.
I saw that yesterday.
There's some
Okay.
idiot online that posted, they're like, Ukraine is kicking Russia's ass. And I was like, well, that's funny because every time I look at the map, it just seems like Russia keeps moving west.
Yeah, that's all that is happening.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
they just keep taking territory. It's like, I don't know about you, but losing territory is not how you win a war. And the Russians have pretty much kicked Ukraine completely out of Luhansk, and they're about 12 kilometers away from kicking them completely out of Donbass, which was
I don't know why they
their
haven't.
goal.
If I had a time machine, I'd go back and tell Putin before the election, I'm like, just finish this, dude. Put the hurt, do what Cosmo Kramer said he was going to do. Put the hurt on Ukraine.
You know, it's so weird because I've pointed out multiple times to people, it's very obvious that the Russians are not actually fighting. Like if they were fighting a real war, you know, like how is it that you never see like a T-90 or a BRDM-3, you know, any of their state-of-the-art shit in Ukraine? It's always like, oh, like I saw one tank battle and the Russian guy was in a T-64. So literally, you know, a 40-year-old tank. And the miners from Donbass, the DPR guys building big iron boxes around T-72s, you know, it's like, where's all of Russia's actual modern shit? Do they not have it? Are they really a paper tiger? Or are they holding it back? And if so, why?
I think they're holding it back.
Yeah, well, Putin's plan is literally he don't want to conquer Ukraine. He just wants to liberate the breakaway oblasts, right? But the thing Ukraine did recently, you got all these people in the West, they're like, oh, that was such a great thing. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, that was kind of a terrorist act because you had hid weapons in civilian vehicles with people not wearing military uniforms who may or may not have even known what they were doing. And then you attack stuff. And yeah, you did a lot of damage, but I'm pretty sure in actual modern war, if you get caught not wearing a uniform but fighting in a war, they consider you like a partisan or something and they hang you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to wear a uniform. And what they did was completely the same kind of shit Hamas does. And the West is all like, oh, it was such a great thing. It's like,
Oh, yeah. Terrorism's okay when we do it, just like genocide's okay when the Semites kill a bunch of Arabs and then our aid truck shows up. And then when they're trying to get aid and bandages for their wounds, they get shot.
well, the Semites are killing other Semites. That's what's crazy about it. Because the Palestinians are technically Semites too. They're Canaanites is what they actually are. The whole word Palestine, that's a Roman word. When Rome conquered Judea and all that, they named it Palestina.
They're full of invaders.
Yeah, and so they're actually there's no people known as the Palestinians historically. They were Canaanites, and then of course the Hebrews.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry to
Edomites,
interrupt.
which
I
come
had
from the
I had to
south.
know what you were thinking on that.
I think what the Arabs did was completely dishonorable. And if they had acted honorable, I would have been like, damn, that was a good military operation.
Yeah, but
They
you're
were
talking about
so
the Arabs, and
dishonorable,
so none of
attacking
it surprises
civilians and
us.
shit. As an ex-soldier, a combat vet, there's just some shit I can't go with, you know? Like raping and dragging people around behind trucks. Like, that's why I can't watch Black Hawk Down. Because when I see those Somalis dragging that U.S. soldier behind a truck, I immediately go to hit the red button on Somalia. You know what I mean? Which we
Yeah.
don't do, but
We never do. We
I
never
would.
Like we would have done the world a favor if we destroyed everything in Mogadishu and just dropped a couple of Moabs on them.
Oh, send the B-52s over until you get sick of it.
I'll rearrange the whole city.
Yeah. Call Google because I'm getting ready to change the topography.
They call Google Maps. They're going to need a new one.
And that's what I would have done. The second they pulled their shit, I would have razed Mogadishu to the ground. And then I'd have been like, you want to pull some more shit? But then again, maybe I'm too Romanesque. SPQR, baby. You know what I mean? SPQR. I would not tolerate that shit.
No, the Jews started shit with the Romans and they got what was coming to them.
The 70s
During the Maccabean rebellion, when they went and hit that garrison, I think they had just settled in for a holiday when it was a Roman national holiday. They just settled in, and then they hit that garrison and just slaughtered every man there mercilessly. And then it was Hadrian who showed up with like 12 legions and laid them to waste.
Well, I mean, you probably know this, and I don't know if you didn't say it for any reason, but I'll say it. The Jewish Revolution of 70 AD was about the Jews killing as many Christians as possible. And they took the Romans out because they were there. But there were apostles that got murdered during that time too. James the Just was thrown off of a freaking the top of his cathedral. The Jewish people killed so many Christians on the island of Cyprus that for hundreds of years, the king of Cyprus outlawed Jews on Cyprus. And they did it everywhere there were numbers of them. So the Romans literally dispersed their asses to the wind. Why? I don't know. I do know why, because I was actually raised Jewish for most of my life. If you read the Talmud, what they think about Jesus Christ is some pretty heinous shit. So, Jewish people, if they think you're one of them and you're hanging out in synagogue, you realize that they absolutely, not every single one, but most of them absolutely hate Christians. But if you see one on the sidewalk and you ask them what they think about Christ, they'll say, well, we think he's a good man. He's just not the Messiah. But they're lying to you. They actually think he's boiling in hell and feces.
The best one was there was a Borat went into that synagogue with a bag of money and he had his nose in the claws hands and he's like, "Are you a Jew?" And
Yeah,
you seen that? Don't eat me.
I mean, the Roman Catholics got a saint that is a small boy that was supposedly martyred and killed by a Jewish guy. And the Russian Orthodox, we have a saint that was murdered by a Jewish guy with an axe because he was Christian. And they got the icon and it shows the guy, getting chopped up by a Jewish guy. You know what I mean? It's like crazy. But however, I have to admit, though, I can never side with the Palestinians, though. No matter how I feel about Israel, and like the attack on the liberty and the fact that
I can't side with either. I look at this as another, like, what do you call it, situation. It's like, can't you guys just play nice in the sandbox? Can't you kids play nice in the sandbox? It's none of our business. I'm so tired of like endless war.
Being involved in shit. Yeah, I agree.
Being involved.
Yeah, I know about Masada too. Masada is where when the Romans were just about to break in, the Jews killed themselves. They all cut their own throats.
Was that on the mountain where they built that giant
plateau?
Yeah, they said, "Oh, you'll never get us up here," and the Romans
built a giant ramp,
deconstructed a mountain to build a siege ramp.
Hey, Romans were pretty ingenious.
Oh no, you do not mess with the Romans. They never forgive, they never forget, and they'll come back and in greater numbers the next time.
Yeah, the Germans found that out after Teutoburg. The Romans showed up and started burning German villages to the ground. They got ran out eventually, but Yeah. Shark. No one's saying that a bunch of, but what Holy Diver just said, and it is a historical fact, is the Jewish Revolution of 70 AD was 100% caused by the Jewish people. They started that shit because I don't know why, but I have the icon back there and it has all 12 of Jesus's followers on it and how they died. And most of them were murdered by Jewish people because that's how hated they were. I mean, even Paul spent all of his time when he was Saul.
So they had ended up in that part of the. I got to figure out which war it was. I know that I know that the Jews had a beef with the Greeks, and they got kicked out of that part of the world, and then they ended up resettling there because of their beef with the Greeks. And the Greeks came down on them pretty hard and said, "You're done. Get out of our city states. We're not having this."
And the thing is that I want to know exactly, like, what exactly happened, because you got to be a complete and total asshole to piss off the Greeks to the point they're like, "We're done," because their idea of light conversation is politics talk.
Well, it depends which Greeks we're talking about. Holy Diver's talking about the war with the Hellenes, where the holiday of Hanukkah comes from. Okay. But after that war, there's the war where Alexander the Great marches through that whole region, just whipping everybody's ass. Like during the siege of Tyre, which is a island just off the coast there, Alexander built a causeway from the land to the island so that he could put his siege weapons across and, destroy the wall and take it, because Alexander was not the kind of guy to take no for an answer, He
did that over, all they had to do was let him go in and make a sacrifice to Hercules. And that's all he wanted. But they were afraid if they let him in, that he would enter with his army and that they would have to capitulate to him.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I think they thought it would be funnier to insult them you got to look at it from their strategic position. They thought it would be funnier to insult him.
Yeah, well, they didn't know the young'un, because at that time Alexander was like 21. I mean, he conquered the known world at 24. So compared to him, we are a bunch of slacking ass losers.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, this dude, he just took off pretty quick. But I love it when people say Afghanistan is the graveyard of empires. It's like, well, Alexander crushed them. And then the only reason his empire fell is because he died of a fever in Babylon, or alcoholism and ulcers, or maybe murder. Who knows?
I don't think it was murder. I think it was a legitimate. So what I gather from Arian and is that I think the toll of battle had taken something away from him. He was
an alcoholic.
He was an alcoholic, yeah. But getting somewhere, calming down when you're like constantly being used to being active, and then just like being kind of sedentary, maybe it allowed sickness to sneak up on him. It was a lifestyle change, doing nothing. That probably killed him.
I agree. I mean,
the absence
of war. The modern combat soldier has issues with PTSD, can you imagine? Like all the shit he's seen. And then to go from that to sitting around a palace getting drunk every day.
Yeah.
I mean, he gave up a lot of his health marching into the Indus Valley and whipping the shit out of them. And then marching across the desert and all that. I mean, he is my favorite character from history like that. Me and Shark, actually, okay. Shark, we got tiebreaker, my United States Marine Corps brother, even though I was Army infantry. We will ask Holy Diver, who also is into history. Holy Diver, do you think that Scipio Africanus was a better general than Julius Caesar, or not? Of the two, who would you pick?
Of the two, I'd probably have to go with Scipio. Julius Caesar did have a lot of notable accomplishments. You know, his double envelopment of his own fort and everything, that I never would have thought of that. Okay, I'll dig a wall around my wall to defend me from incoming attack as I
Right.
still siege the town.
I'm besieging Vercingetorix, but I'm also guarding myself from any reinforcement. That's brilliant. It really was.
There was a 15 millimeter game that came out like 20 years ago, and you would get these little blocks of infantry or cavalry,
I know the game you're talking about.
and the Romans would have the guys with the giant shields and the pylons.
Mm-hmm.
And what you know what the game name is named?
It's based on the same exact rule set as the World War II game, where like you got the hexes, and
Yes.
it's that, except instead of figures, the blocks represent regiments.
So
there's a name for that style of game, and there's like 10 different kinds, because there's a Civil War version too, and there's another version that's like medieval. I actually own it, the medieval one, and they added fantasy elements to the medieval one if you wanted to, but it's the whole, you roll the dice, and for every sword or whatever you get, that kills a guy. And I forget the name.
The Italians, the Romans were absolutely devastating with their range attacks. And then whenever they'd actually engage in melee, if you had Scipius, like, he provided a couple more bonuses in the version we were playing. I don't know if that was official or not, but it was a league game at the game room in Washington, Illinois.
So you were basically playing the Punic Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we enjoyed the shit out of that, but I had the option to take either Caesar, Scipius. So I took Scipius because, more bonuses.
Well, yeah, his actual name was Claudius Scipio, and his dad was a general. It was only after he burned Carthage to the ground and defeated Hannibal Barca that he was given the honorific Africanus.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Holy Diver, and it's a pleasure to be able to see you work for once, or be able to see you in the panel for once.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you were streaming, because I thought you streamed on Saturday.
No, I stream on Sundays.
That's why I keep missing your damn streams.
No, I stream on. Hungar didn't tell you. Damn you, Hungar.
No,
He's
and I've
usually
been
there.
missing streams, and I've been talking to him. I'm like, I haven't seen. No, I have seen your streams, but they're always after the fact.
No, I stream
Like
on
when I'm
Sunday
playing-
mornings, 8 a.m. to 8:15 Mountain Time is when I usually start up. And I just figured you were going out of town, but I heard you talking. I was watching you while I was setting up my stream, and I gave you a like over there on Rumble, by the way.
Thank you. Well, I'm about done. So if you're going to stream,
no, I've already done my stream. I've already done my piece. I just wanted to come in and get you. You were talking, and I had that one question. I'm sorry to interrupt. You answered it.
What question was it again?
It was about how many missiles the Russians threw at Ukraine.
Oh yeah, shit ton. And apparently the Orichnik or whatever can go Mach 10. So all of the anti-missile systems Ukraine currently has can't stop them.
Okay, that's
Because
all
by
I wanted.
the time the Patriot missile system sees that bitch, it already hit. And they also carry multi-warheads. Every one of those Rochniks can carry like 6 MIRVs. So yeah. I was watching a live thing from like Hindustan TV, and they were just showing this shit coming down out of the sky, man. Like the Russians were dropping baloney all over the place. You know what I mean? So
that's all I
Trump,
wanted, and I'm sorry to interrupt and everything.
Oh no,
like that.
I love it that you joined and asked that. And Putin told Trump. Trump said you don't have to retaliate, and Putin said, "Yes, I do."
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
You can't let that shit go.
And now, and hopefully, America woke up to the fact that we can't shoot the Orishniks down. So you guys are gonna have to, so stop threatening nuclear war. Maybe we come to the table. And with that, I'm gonna go eat some breakfast, and you have yourself a good day, DM James.
Hey, always a pleasure to see you, brother.
All right, same here.
Later, Holy Diver.
You have a good day, Bruce. Bye.
Bye. All right, Shark. I'm sorry that we had to gang up on you, but that's 2-1. That's 2 nerds to 1 nerd. Because Holy Diver is actually mostly, he does play a lot of Warhammer stuff, but he also plays a shit ton of historic stuff. You know, like him, and there's a guy called Army Ranger who was an Army Ranger, and they're always painting up like they're Romans and Persians and Greeks and shit like that. And they've got some really good where they do after action reports of different battles between the Greeks and Persians and whatever. But hey. Oh yeah, the Roman war machine was not to be beat. I mean, it just is what it is for the time. You know, I mean, okay, not to be beat. It got its ass whipped a couple times by the Carthaginians and the Greeks and the Celts, especially Brennan, who conquered Rome and come up with the term Victus because he made them give him all of their gold. But outside of that, they recovered quick. And then the next thing you know, they turned from, oh, we have a king and we're living up here doing shit, to we're a republic and we're just beating the shit out of everybody, you know? Like the thing the Romans did that made them awesome is every good thing that anyone they fought had, they stole. Like the mail armor they originally wore, they stole from the Celts. The sword that they used, they stole from the Iberians, because originally Romans carried long swords, but then they fought the Iberians and they're like, oh, that little stabby thing, that's some good shit. Their shield was originally stole from the Celts, because the original Romans used more like a hoplite shield. And then they're like, oh, this oval is cool, let's do that. And then later it become a square. But you know, the pilum, that was the thing with the Romans. They literally could recognize whatever was a really good tool, take it, make it their own, make it better, and then turn around and use it on you. And then when they went from fighting in phalanxes to maniples, that's how they screwed elephants up. Like, you know, when Hannibal sent the elephants, the maniples just opened up, rose between themselves, and the elephants were like, okay, do I charge into the spear or do I just run through that open area? And they ran through the open area because elephants aren't stupid. And then you just close lines again and do your thing.
So
yeah, the Romans might lose the battle, but they always learned from it and stole all the best ideas. How dare you culturally. Yeah, and that's what the Romans did. They appropriated the Greek gods and they appropriated warfare from everyone they ever fought. I mean, I tell you what, though, they sunk all of their points into engineering. If there's one thing you can say the Roman civilization really outshined every other civilization in, it's engineering.
I'll agree with that.
I mean, they had fountains in Rome that were being powered by aqueducts that were hundreds of miles long leading into the Alps and shit. You know, they had bathhouses. They engineered. When Carthage was originally effing with them, the Romans couldn't do anything because they didn't have a navy. And then a Carthaginian ship in a storm washed up on shore. The Romans captured it, disassembled it, and within 3 months had built 100. Which was really the end of Carthage. When the Romans started being like, you know, hey, let's the banjo is a North African instrument. That is a fact. However, Squirrel Hermit, North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa may as well be 2 different continents. So there you go.
They really are.
North Africa, for the longest time, has always been occupied by Europeans. As far back as
wait. What was first? What was the? You're saying they were occupied by a European? I always heard that the Egyptian settlers.
whatever they actually were. We know they weren't sub-Saharan though, because in their own writing they make they differentiate themselves from Ethiopians and Nubians. And then after that, you had the Romans, the Visigoths, the Eastern Romans, so Byzantine, the Arabs, the Turks, Italians, Spaniards. I mean, yeah, you name it. Northern Africa may as well be Southern Europe. They did have some native people there, Berbers, which are not sub-Saharan Africans. They're something else. I mean, if you're looking at the three main ethno groups in the world, Berbers would be under Indo-European. They would not be under Negro. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, he said that word, but that's a scientific word for the race. Asian, Caucasian, you know. So, yeah. Of course, there was probably a lot of hybridization, though, here and there, too. Well, not only were the Carthaginians unprepared, but their whole system was effed up. Well, it depends on the native people we're talking about. I mean, Berbers, they migrated there from somewhere. I mean, everybody migrated somewhere from somewhere, right? But yeah, when the Carthaginians started losing wars, their answer to that was to throw more of their children into their gods' altars. And it turned out sacrificing all of your children to your various evil gods will not stop the Romans from burning your city to the ground. So there you go. I mean, even the Hebrews originated in Anatolia, which is now currently called Turkey. Abraham was a mercenary in the Hittite Empire, which is Turkey. And then, you know, they traveled south to what is now Judea. So everyone went somewhere. We already talked about the other day, the reason Northern Indians are so pale, because the Indo-European peoples from the plains of Ukraine and Kazakhstan and whatnot traveled all the way across the world, crushed the people that originally lived in Northern India, and took it over, and then there's been interbreeding over time. But since that time, the Indians themselves have always seen the pale-skinned Indians as being a higher caste because they were ruled over by a bunch of white guys for a while. Yeah, there's more slaves right now. We commit more atrocities. We graduate more high school students that can barely read. Yeah, Carthage was stupid. I agree. What happened with Carthage is a queen from the Canaanite Empire fled from Canaan, went to Carthage, and they said, you can have a city as big as this ox hide. So she had her servants cut that ox hide very thin in a spiral until she had like this really, really long ox hide string, basically, and she laid it out, and the king was so impressed. He's like, yeah, you can have that. And that was how Carthage was actually formed. There were Numidians in North Africa, and they're Berbers. Greeks, of course, Romans, Germanic Vandals, I mean, Arabs, but any sub-Saharan black African you would have found in North Africa would probably have been a slave to the Berbers, Greeks, etc. I mean, and people might be mad about it. I mean, I saw something the other day where they had a bunch of black dudes dressed up in purple and gold with their "We Was Kings" and their freaking tetragrammaton on the back and shit. It's like, shit. You know, we're the real Hebrews, and it's like, but you're not. You know, Abram and Sarai come from Europe. You know, and they marched south to the Middle East because God told them to. And that's why to this day, a lot of Jews looked like Goldie Hawn. Now, was there some mixing with Europeans and everyone else? Yes, of course. But I mean, that doesn't change the fact that they originated from Anatolia, maybe even southern, what we now call Russia. No, you're 100% right, historical doppelganger. If a Roman general took a risk and it didn't pay off, a lot of times they would just learn from the mistake. If a Carthaginian general took a risk and it didn't pay off, a lot of times they'd crucify him. And that meant that the Carthaginian generals, by and large, were very timid about doing anything, because who wants to be crucified? That sucks, right? But when the city of Carthage was under siege by the Romans, the citizens of Carthage just upped the number of sacrifices they were making to Moloch. So some people might be like, Carthage didn't deserve it. I would say Carthago electo est. Delecto est, which is Carthage must be destroyed. I mean, any civilization that's answered to being invaded is throw their children into a demon's idol so they can be alive. Yeah, they deserve to be wiped out. Yeah, there's a lot of mixing. That's why I it's like people say white, whatever. I tend to say Indo-European. And the reason I say Indo-European is because an Irishman is an Indo-European. So is a Persian. A lot of North Indians are Indo-European. The Afghanistan people are Indo-European. You know, if you really want to break it down to the, Carthago delinda est. If you really want to break it down to the root of the thing, the Indo-European people include Arabs, Persians, Farsi, some of the Indians. I mean, just basically a lot of people, right? And then the Asians include like Turks, the Uyghur, all the way over to Japan, and Native Americans, as we call them. The Indians in America are actually Asian. And then, of course, you have the African, the Black Africans, and that includes, and what's weird is people don't think how big Africa is. Like, North Africa's not huge, but once you go past those mountains down, Africa is massive with thousands of different cultures and tribes and shit.
Yeah.
And they all hate each other, every one of them. So, you know what I'm going to do is I have these walls I've been printing out that are sci-fi walls. And after I shade this and maybe highlight it, I'm going to write in like squeaky blood the Latin from Event Horizon. Save yourself from hell. Which at first they thought it was save us. And then when the guy listened to it again, he's like, it's save yourself from hell. I love that movie. So as not to be whatever, I printed this out, and the neck between the front and the main body was so thin it broke. So I just took another ship that I had laying around and affixed it to it. But instead of calling it the Event Horizon, I'm going to call it the Far Horizon. I can't wait till the players have to land on this. I wonder what they'll find. I already know what they'll find. They'll find a bunch of things like this. Yes, that's a leaper from Dead Space. And if any of you are saying, damn, that James, he's sure not very original, I'll say, no, I'm not. But my players have a good time. So,
There's nothing wrong with that. I think your players' enjoyment should be tantamount
To anything else going on in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise,
Well, I
you don't
mean,
have a game.
I've stolen like scripts and shit from movies and stuff, and they never figured it out. Like we played one sci-fi game, and it was literally just like the third Riddick movie or some shit, you know, except they crashed on the world. And when it started raining, all these giant evil things started coming out of the ground to eat them. And they had to travel 150K across an alien world to get to a research station, which might have a radio set that they might be able to send a signal out. And they had to do it all with just what they had in the escape pod. So they had like basic survival gear, like a thermal blanket and some rations and like some water and also some water purification tablets and, you know, really super basic bug out type gear. And just with that, they had to travel 150K over a hostile world before it started raining, because when it started raining, the eggs buried under the ground of these gigantic scorpion-like beasts would hatch and come out for their breeding cycle, which also was their eating cycle. And yeah, I basically stole the basic idea from one of the Riddick movies. The one where he's on the planet where the things with the tails came up out of the water and tried to get him.
Yeah, Riddick came out in 2013.
Yeah, I forget which movie. I think it's the Riddick movie. But, I mean, I would agree with that, Kyle. And it's not just Islam taking over. It's even more, it's different than that, because it's like there was a time when Baghdad, you know, was like the center of learning, and it was a golden age. And there were Muslims there, but there were Christians and Jews there too. And everyone lived in peace together. But I think whenever the thing happened that caused Shia and Sunni to happen, that schism in Islam, shit just started going bad. You know what I mean? It was like some of the Muslims just started getting really fanatical about things. So... I mean, Muslims like to say the Quran has never been changed, but in actuality, there's like 4 versions of it. Like the Baha'i, that's a version of Islam too. Icobus est omnium orator. I know what. So you're saying James in Latin, and you're saying I give speeches. Omnium, I don't know what omnium is. Yeah, I talked about that. Yeah. And Bruce's painting. But yeah, if you're playing a sci-fi game, whether it's Star Frontiers, Traveler, whatever, yeah, take some of those Riddick movies, maybe not the one with the necromongers, but the other ones, and throw your players into a scenario based on some of that shit, you know? Like, you've got X amount of time before monsters, like I said, start jumping up out of the ground trying to eat you and shit. And, you know, but I mean, I think Gary Gygax might have actually said this in the original DM guide, is like, you know, take inspiration wherever you get it, whether it's watching movies, reading books. I mean, if you encounter something in a movie or a book that just seems like it'd be badass, throw it in a game. You know, by all means. Some of you may laugh, but in my OSC Greyhawk game, Dungeon Master, and I mean literally the little gnome from the cartoon, has appeared to the players. And the group, the kids, they're there too. And the players have fought Warduke once, and they may have to fight him again, except this time Kellick's with him and the rest of those assholes from the Shady Dragon Inn. So, you know, I mean, and somebody might be like, that's kind of lame or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care what you think. My players think it's fun, you know? Plus, the painted miniature I have over here of Warduke gets to see some action on the table. So, you know.
I love Warduke.
Yeah, you know, him and the Paladin were best friends until they found that artifact. Pure Heart or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Then after that, they were kind of mortal enemies, if I remember right.
Right, because what the artifact did is it looked deep into your soul and it brought out whatever, right? And Warduke and the Paladin got along, even though Warduke, was a fighter who killed a lot of shit, because Warduke's whole thing was he liked to kill shit, but he killed the shit for the party, so they kind of overlooked it. But then, he turned evil. Warduke's whole philosophy, though, was always might makes right. If I can kill you and take your shit, you don't deserve to have it. And of course, the Paladin was like, hey, man, that ain't cool. So then Warduke sided with Kellic and that bunch. But a little known fact, which most of you probably know, though, is Warduke and the sorceress that he hangs out with, they've been plotting to get rid of Kellic for like years so that Warduke can be the leader of the party.
Okay, where is that history at? Because I'm
Kind of curious about this.
A lot of it is in the Shady Dragon Inn book for basic D&D.
Okay.
Yeah. And see, the evil party is the half-orc assassin, the female sorceress. There's an evil cleric. Kellic is an archmage, so he's like level 11 or 12. Then you've got Warduke, who's a level 9 fighter with a flame-tongued sword. And they're all evil, so you got to expect the fact that they're probably not, huge fans of each other.
Was there ever who was a fighter that had Black Razor?
Oh, Black Razor was in White Plume Mountain and was originally owned by Cass.
Okay.
And Cass, of course, is the vampire that cut off Vecna's hand and eye. If I remember correctly.
I don't know my D&D history. I'm sorry.
Well, that, if I remember correctly, I learned from the Book of Vile Darkness, because it went into detail about some of the evil characters and shit they got into. And yeah, so. But up there, and I do get them down, I have all of the kids from the D&D cartoon, except they're grown. Because in the cartoon, somebody made an ending for it. And in the ending that they made for it, the kids chose not to go home.
The radio play?
No, I'm talking about the D&D cartoon.
Yeah, the D&D cartoon. There's another episode that they never filmed, but they do a radio play. The girl that plays a thief is part of it. It's on YouTube, and it is the final quote-unquote episode. Oh, it's Bobby.
Yeah, it's Bobby, except he's grown. He's got beard, and he's big as shit. And then something they were supposed to do in the first place and never did, but they fixed with these miniatures. Eric had a sword.
Yeah.
But the people who produced the cartoon were like, Eric can't have a sword. And Gygax was like, the hell is he supposed to do without a sword? And so he just become the guy that bitched all the time and had the shield.
Yeah,
my wife actually bought me the entire run of the cartoons. And if you pay attention, which I do because I'm a pattern recognition kind of guy, Eric, he bitches and complains a lot, and he also saves the day a lot. Like, he acts cowardly, but when it really comes down to it, he's the first one to jump in the front. You know what I mean? So, interesting character. He's my favorite character, Eric. He is a dick, though. I'm not going to lie. He is kind of a dick, though. right now I'm assembly line painting, which means I've got like 9 characters in front of me, and I'm just going down the row painting all the flesh. And then I'll go down the row and paint all the whatever, the shoes. You know, it'd be a lot easier if I were painting like soldiers or something. But since I'm painting civilians that are dressed very differently, it's kind of sucks because there's only so much I can paint in that style. Also, I want to give a huge thumbs up to Vallejo Express paints. They're really good. I like them.
I love Vallejo paints.
Yep. I use Vallejo Game Color, right?
Yeah,
But I got the starter set of the Express paints a while back. And, you know, so this thing. And
nice.
they're basically like the Army Painter quick paints or whatever, but made by Vallejo. And I have the Army Painter speed paints, and I think the Vallejo paints might have a little bit more pigment in them.
I think they do, and I think they don't rub off as easy.
Yeah, they're just a little bit better, I think. But that just could be my opinion too, because I'm a huge fan of Vallejo. But anywho, there is one GW paint I cannot live without.
Which one?
Snakebite leather. GW contrast snakebite leather is a lifesaver. Because when you're painting things, especially if those things are leather, it is like the best color to have. Like it does leather better than any other thing. Unless you're just going to use game color and paint it leather and then shade it and everything like that. You could do that. But if you're talking speed paint, GW snakebite leather is bar none the best. Just the best. It's just such a nice looking brown, you know. And this guy, of course, is from What We Do in the Shadows. It's not Nandor, it's the other guy. But I decided to paint him up, and if one of the players want to use him for their Traveler player, they're welcome to. I've got Guillermo too. I've got all of them, but you know. But yeah, right. So if I want, what I'll do is a lot of these guys I'm painting here, I'll just paint their shoes snakebite leather. And, you know, so it looks like they're just wearing leather, you know, shoes. That's cool, right? Right. So like this guy right here, this is Roy Batty. Even though the STL didn't call him Roy Batty, the STL called him Combat Replicant. And I missed the hand, but he's holding a dove in one hand, and I painted his coat with Vallejo Express Color Storm Gray, and his shoes are brown. And then I can paint his pants maybe another brown color, and then highlight the face and make the hair really pale, and he's done. And then if one of my players, and then paint the base metallic, because it's, you know, the base is like the deck of a ship or something. And then if one of the players wants to play this guy as their character, they're more than welcome to do so. Right? Right.
Sounds like a good plan.
And if we ever played Blade Runner, I mean, having all of these runners and Nexus guys, you know, even though Roy Batty, unfortunately, was a Nexus 6, and they never were very stable. You need the Nexus 9s. Much more stable.
Shit, it's almost 12 o'clock over here. I apologize, James. I'm probably gonna have to get skedaddling.
You ain't got to apologize, man. I'm just hanging out. I could, the stream could be over anytime. It's just we were BSing around. Holy Diver dropped in, and right now I'm just rambling anyway. So
yeah,
I don't think anybody's going to miss anything. What's weird is we have the most people watching ever right now when it's like 3 hours in. It's so weird. It's like the first hour we had like 4 people. It's like, come on, guys, you need to start showing up a little earlier. Like maybe one of the girls in the group will want to play this character.
She's a good-looking character.
Yeah, that's what's her name? Pris. You remember Pris?
Cheryl Hannah.
Yep. And I've got another in here I'm working on. I need to neaten it up and do the highlight on the flesh, but gave her the purple hair, a red dress, and black boots. I also have like multiple sculpts of Love too. I've got one where she's dressed up like a secretary, one where she's got a gun out, like action poses and shit like that. I've got a figure of Wallace, the guy who owned the company that made the replicants. I've got him. And like I said, I'll just show the players. I'll just put all these miniatures out and be like, pick the one you like, and then their characters are already done. So yeah, we already made the characters. But anyway, Bruce, get yourself some sleep, man.
I got to get ready for the show with Janet. I did sleep last night. It was nice.
Oh, yeah. You do that. What time is it? I wonder here. Let me look. So here in a couple hours, my players will start showing up too.
We'll be doing the review of a show called I Come in Peace. In Europe, it was called Dark Angel. It's got
I Come in Peace. That's the one with Kyle MacLachlan and the alien that's still in everybody's endorphins or some shit.
I don't know if it's Tom McLaughlin. It's Dolph Lundgren, and Brian Benben is his partner, the guy that used to be on a show called Dream On.
Okay, so that's not the one I'm thinking.
He is stealing people's endorphins. The alien is Matthias Hughes.
Then, see, the one I'm thinking had Kyle MacLachlan in it.
They were talking about The Hidden.
And he was also an alien.
The Hidden is the one you're talking about.
And the alien, like, was stealing the stuff from your brain. It had, like, a DVD.
That's in I Come in Peace. In The Hidden with Kyle MacLachlan, the alien was a shapeshifter, or actually it would jump from person to person.
Okay, so I'm just getting my sci-fis mixed up.
Yeah, you haven't seen The Hidden probably in about 20 or 30 years.
Do you know what I did see last night, though?
What'd you watch?
Radioactive Dreams.
Oh.
It's on YouTube. You can watch the whole movie on YouTube. And a little known fact for those of you who like little known facts, the movie Radioactive Dreams, which, like I said, is on YouTube, is the movie that inspired Fallout. The guys who created Fallout said they based it on Radioactive Dreams.
Are you sure about that? Because there's a lot of parts of Fallout that you could point and it's different media.
Yep.
Like the Rad Scorpions.
Sure. Like the idea that you're in a nuclear bunker and then you get out of the nuclear bunker and you wander around the radioactive wasteland. That is 100% Radioactive Dreams.
Okay.
And now I'm not saying they didn't add shit to it, but when I looked up the IMDb on Radioactive Dreams, it said this movie was the basis for the video game Fallout, according to the creators, Bethesda, back when they're good or whatever, whoever it was.
What's your favorite Fallout game?
To be honest, Bruce, I've only played the one where you're in Washington and you got to purify the water.
Okay. If you get the chance or time is more currency than money. Fallout Tactics is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I have it. I just haven't really messed with it. And yes, guys, I did I did all the good guy stuff, and my character specialized in assault rifles. So anytime I needed ammo or anything, I went to the neighborhood where all the Chinese ghouls were and just ganked the shit out of them and took their AKs. So my character's always running around with AK, and I had so much ammo. But yeah, I think it's time for me to head out too. So I was going to try to think of something in Latin, but it was all bad stuff. Palladius Mors. No, that's spelled death. Anyway, Bruce,
Thank you,
look at my
sir.
hair. It's crazy. I
You
shaved
go
my
have
beard and it's all effed up because I didn't shave it. I just stuck scissors and cut it off. But go do some gardening. Nice. You guys have fun. I got
We'll
my
talk to
game
you.
tonight, and Bruce has got his movie. I, of course, don't stream my game, so go watch Bruce.